Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 25. I'm your host Mo, and I'm joined as always by my long-distance friends Vili
Woman Jinka.
and Jody.
Hakuna Matata.
No worries.
Just making shit up now.
What's yours, Joe? I mean, Vili.
It is Welcome to Country for the Wurundjeri people, which is the traditional landowners of Melbourne.
Okay. Wow. Very nice.
Going local. Local is lacquer.
Hell yeah.
I made sure I made you go first this time, Vili, so that you don't have your thunder stolen again on some off chance. That Klingon last week was all time.
Yeah, no, that was a lull and a half.
So episode 25, eh? 25.
Hold up. Jody, Hakuna Matata, is that Swahili?
Sure, it's Disney is what it is.
it's Timon.
I think it's actually Swahili. I may be wrong.
Sure.
We'll put a pin in that.
American media loves to throw the word Swahili out there, whether they actually know the nuances of the specific dialects of the Southern African tribes. I have my doubts.
It's more the East African tribes but yes.
Okay. So yeah, Joe, episode 25. We're a quarter century old. Look at us go.
I feel it.
The little podcast that could. At this rate, we'll have something near 125 episodes to cover the main series. 125, I think 125
So we're fifth of the way.
That's almost there. It's like 2
more
more days,
the
guys.
end of book 3.
Huh.
I was looking at it today going like, whoo, point the end. Here we go.
In fact, in our very next episode, the chapter configuration will look slightly different, but we'll cover that right at the end. We have some awesome chapters to get through today. But before we do, we have to do our penance and venture back to everyone's favorite spot, callbacks. Now, you guys don't know this, but I've entered a jingle here.
All right.
All right.
It sounds great. I love it.
Okay, callbacks. Let's start with a listener contribution. We have a new listener called Dan from Canada who wrote in to say that he's enjoying the podcast very much, which is great. Thanks a lot for that, Dan.
Dan.
He's not all the way up to speed yet, but he had just recently finished our finale for The Great Hunt. And he said that he couldn't believe that we did not discuss the fact that Lanfear healed Rand.
What? Wait, what?
Probably because we didn't catch that.
This was my reaction as well. I responded to him. I was like, what? Okay, I need to dig into this. And it seems like there's a lot of people out there that hold this this theory that Lanfear, we know Lanfear channeled at Rand, right? She drew that symbol on his forehead that Min thought resembled the dragon's fang. Rand had a physical reaction. He shivered or he shuddered, like his body moved when she did something to him, or when she made that motion anyway. And they say later that, in fact, I think I've got the quote here. Perrin tried healing it. This is Min saying to Rand after he's woken up that Perrin tried healing it, but she said it didn't work the way it should. Moraine says that Nynaeve must have done something or you wouldn't have lived till we carried you to Perrin. But Nynaeve says that she was too frightened to light a candle. There's something wrong with your wound. You will have to wait for it to heal naturally. So Perrin, Moraine, and Nynaeve all deny being able to do any kind of healing of Rand's wound in his side.
I just, chalk that up to, the fact of how he got the wound being from the staff of Samael or something. So that's why they couldn't heal it, not because...
Which you would think would then sort of progressively get worse. I mean, Ishamal's staff would cause a wound that wouldn't just sit there. Like, I mean, its nature seems to me, at least, to be sort of like festering and, being a source
infected
of evil
pain.
Influence and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So there's a common, I mean, again, this is fan theory, but one that I've now, since looking into this, sort of come to like is the fact that while Lanfear might not have actually healed the wound, she did something to keep it in check, to sort of stem the effect of it. And that might be why the other Aes Sedai couldn't do anything to it. I mean, she does have a vested interest in keeping Rand alive. She wants to, reunite with Lews Therin and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, she definitely did something. She made his body react to something she did when she made contact with him.
Well, I'm not going to scrap that out as not. I mean, he's alive miraculously. So.
Yeah, so I mean that also has implications to the whole Lanfear as opposed, Lanfear sort of in opposition to Ishamael. Like she is actively working against him. So here she's also stepping in. If this is the case, she's stepping in and sort of like fixing up some of the stuff that Ishamael has done. And as we've seen in their interactions, they do not like each other one bit.
Yes, that is very true. So that is a good one. I like it.
I like it as well. Thanks, Dan.
It's fitting for Lanfear to do a half job.
and to mess with something that Ishamael's done and to do something to preserve Rand's life. Yeah, that also tracks. I also had a thought in talking about Lanfear versus Ishamael that I'd thrown the idea out there when Egwene has the dream about Rand on the chessboard being moved around, or like the stones board being moved around with other stones. We thought, like, who could the two people be on opposing sides of the board that are using him? I threw out the idea it could be Lanfear and Ishamael. But then during the week, I had the thought, like, that. I mean, it could be the White Tower and Ishamael. It could literally be Moiraine and Ishamael on opposite ends of the stones board trying to use Rand for their own devices, while Moraine's is less selfish. She is still very much trying to maneuver Rand and she's not even being shy about it.
Yeah, she's pointing him towards the fight, like,
yes, I will put you where you need to be come hell or high water. So yeah, just another little tidbit, food for thought. Then I've got a couple of short ones. Were the Aiel spears inspired by the Zulu Assegai? Yes, Robert Jordan has said that the Aiel are based on the Zulu, Bedouin, and Apache, some Japanese cultures, among others. Physically, he sort of styled them after the Irish because he thought it would be funny to put the Irish in a desert. That's why they're all fair-skinned with grey eyes and red hair. But yes, I mean, the very first tribe that he mentioned was the Zulu. So that
awesome
Assegai comparison is definitely there. I mentioned that when we were talking about Fail's sort of secret noble origins, that she was acquainted with the Queen of Saldea, Queen Tenobia. She's more than acquainted to her. She's her cousin. Davram Bashir is the Queen's uncle, which now, reading it again, I remember, I think Tenobia even addresses him as uncle or whatever. I'm not going to fix this in another callback if it's not the case. But,
just edit it out.
The fact remains, I remember that Bashir was Tenobia's uncle. We also were sort of wondering, where did Egwene know exactly what balefire was? Was it in her second test when Caemlyn was ruined, or was it in her third test when she was the Amlin seat? And it was in the third test, actually. They don't mention balefire at all in the ruined Caemlyn in her second accepted test. She thinks of balefire when contemplating whether to rush the warders in the courtyard in the traitor's court to try and free Rand from being gentled. And then in that moment, she also thinks, balefire? What is balefire again? So that's where it was.
All right.
When Nynaeve heals Elayne's head wound, when they're trapped in that room from the brigands, Egwene was making physical contact with Elayne. Egwene had put her hand over Elaine's mouth so that when Nynaeve healed her, she doesn't scream. And it's because she was touching Elayne that this sort of like force feedback from Nynaeve's healing weave.
She got his finger
happened.
tangled in the carpet weaving.
Yes. We were talking about Ruach and his marital status. He does have two wives. He is married to a miss, who is a wise one, but then he's also married to a woman called Elayne, who is the roof mistress of the Cold Rocks Hold. And a roof mistress in that aspect, a roof mistress by its strictest definition is anyone that owns a home. or a woman that owns a home, obviously. But in the context of a sort of clan chief's wife, she is sort of the roof mistress for the whole clan, and she acts as a diplomat and welcomes people to the clan and all that sort of stuff. So Ruach does have 2 wives, but only one of them is a wise one.
So she's like an ambassador for the clan.
Mm-hmm. I also said at one point that doesn't Ruach like hold Caemlyn for Rand until Elayne comes to claim the throne or something like that. It wasn't Caemlyn. It's Bandar Eben in Aradoman when there's still chaos there. Rand tasks Ruach with restoring order, and the Aiel take Bandar Eben and they hold it for Rand. And Ruach, as the leader of the Aiel that are there, sort of takes command for that time. Then I have a good old dose of pedantry for you guys to digest.
Oh, here we go.
I didn't like how we left the wager that Matt had made with that innkeeper to buy his horses. So I went and I looked it up, and it was, Matt says to the innkeeper, here's 4 gold and 3 silver. He sort of starts taking the coins out one by one. He's not even looking at what's in the purse. He's just taking them out and laying them one by one. Ends up with 4 gold and 3 silver for the hayloft. And he says to the innkeeper, another 8 gold and 6 silver, so like double what he just paid, against the horses, saddles, and bridles. So Matt's betting 8 gold and 6 silver, and the innkeeper is betting the horses, the saddles, and the bridles. But he says to the innkeeper, you can roll twice, and you can use your best roll against 1 roll from me. So he does pay for the hayloft, but he gets the horses and the saddles and the bridles.
That's how I understood it.
Yeah. And then one last one. I went back to read about how long after the healing of Elayne the fades show up. And it is almost instantaneously. What happens after the healing is Egwene hastily, the word used in the book is hastily, explains to Elayne what has happened. And then they look out the thing and the fades are there. So the fact that they use the word hastily means obviously how long is it going to take to explain, we've been captured, we're in this room, we're surrounded by men, blah, blah. It's like seconds. It's not even a minute. And then the fades are already in the room. So, Joe, I went and looked at the World of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time to go look at the Madral to find out a bit more about their traveling capability that you posed as a possible way that they could have gotten in there quickly. And you're right. They can step into a shadow anywhere and come out in another shadow anywhere else, which I don't remember being the case. I mean, I remember them having some trickery with shadows. They can disappear in the shadows. They can travel along shadows and that sort of stuff. But I mean, this is basically teleportation. This is wild. It turns out like Agenor doesn't even know how it works either. And they are, I mean, the Madral, I don't know if you guys knew or remember this, but they are actually throwbacks from the Trollocs. When Trollocs have kids, like some of their kids come out more human than animal, and they are Madral.
Yeah.
And they all look exactly the same. They all have long, stringy black hair. They're all like tall and sinewy, but strong. Obviously, none of them have eyes, and they can all do this thing where they travel through shadows. So, I mean, it's absolutely possible that they just appeared inside that hut, from anywhere else after the weave was made and before Egwene looks through the crack.
That sounds like some sort of overpowered ability that they don't utilize enough in the series.
Words out of my mouth, Jody. In a basic sword fight where there are any shadows around, do the Scorpion Mortal Kombat 1 move and bounce out one side of the screen and come in the other side and just stab someone in the back, right? Like they never use it. Not that I remember.
Or maybe they're not intelligent in that way. So
no, they're smart.
No, but maybe they got like a use limit, like they can only
they got to recharge their power,
recharge it or something. I don't know. Yeah, it seems
the
weird.
flux capacitor's reading's low for a while.
In reading about the Madral, there's a couple of cool tidbits and stuff, and them obviously being like offspring of Trollocs, their names are in Trolloc.
Yeah.
So Madral have unique names, and they're in the Trolloc tongue.
Right, but you opened another can of worms for me right now.
What's that?
You mean that all the Trolloc that are fighting could be male or female?
Apparently.
So the female Trolloc don't have their own sort of fighting clans.
Now, I did not delve that deeply into the Trolloc lore. It is not germane to the main story at the moment, like the Fade travel ability is. So, Villy, I'm going to task you with doing that callback. If you want to go find out about the female warrior societies, the Fardar's Trolloc, then go ahead and enlighten us next week.
All right. I'm just gonna shut up now.
Well, if you do, that'll bring us to the end of this episode's callback section. So previously on Blood and Ashes, the girls got their butts handed to them and then kicked some ass themselves with the Aiel, the Balefire, complex healing, the works. I mean, they just rocked face all over the shop after they got pelted in the head with a couple of slings. Matt saved Eludra's bacon, and Perrin, Fail, Loyal, Moraine, and Lan arrived in Illian. And that's where we left off previously. So today we'll start with chapter 42, called Easing the Badger. And Jody, why don't you explain to us what Easing the Badger means?
Fucked if I know. No idea.
No, that's an unfair curveball.
Yeah. The inn called Easing the Badger has a sign outside, and there's a badger, and a man seems to be prodding it or chasing it with some sort of silver spade or shovel. I don't know what that's.
My immediate thought was, how does Perrin tell like a silver shovel from like a
He's a blacksmith.
an iron shovel or like a
He
steel
knows
shovel?
metals.
But this is a crude painting on an inn sign.
Obviously, it's not crude. It's very detailed.
Maybe it's silver inlay.
Yeah, that's it.
He's got, and remember that eyes, man. He can see things quite in detail.
Yes, there you
Yeah,
go.
you can see the rust on that scythe in the field all the way
Exactly.
outside of
There you
Faldara.
go. Don't underestimate the beefy boy. So, 42 is the chapter, which is the answer to the meaning of life and everything, and my current age.
Thanks, Douglas.
So, here we are with Moraine, Lan, Perrin, Loyal, and Fail have disembarked and are heading into the city of Illian. For our listeners, it was my birthday recently. I got this very cool shirt that no one can see. The picture of Perrin on it and Beefy Boy written above it. Thanks to my wife for that. It was quite a surprise.
She is such a gem.
Total. And I also got the Wheel of Time companion. She just gave me homework, basically, for my birthday. And I looked at it for
This will shut him up for a while.
for some information on Illian. It's a super boring city, so no information that you should that you need to know. So anyway, the city, however, is crisscrossed by lots of canals. Well, as many canals as there are streets. So I'm kind of thinking like a dirty Venice kind of look to it. With, I think, is this as I always confuse Illian with Tyr. Which one is the Greek one? Is that Illian? I think it's Illian.
I mean,
it's that kind of like a Greek vibe to it. Anyway,
isn't that Ibudar or Tanchico? Or
you see, who knows?
Bandar Iban, like I mean,
there's lots of them.
Reminds
a
me
lot of
a bit
coastal
with
cities.
the columns and the palace and the hall of the whatever. All seems like with a olive branch on the top of spires.
Olives, yeah, they grow olives down there.
People often talk about Illian as being extremely beautiful. I think they say in the description here, I think even in the last episode, it's got no walls. Like there's no city walls around it. And it seems very ornate. Lots of palaces, like a lot of palatial structures and like sort of ornate architecture and stuff. But the canals definitely made me think of Venice, which I visited on my honeymoon. So I've got some
first-hand knowledge,
memories to actually draw on. Yeah, so I've been to Illian, is what I'm saying, really.
Oh, right. No, of course.
All right.
That makes sense. Well, yeah, also a lot of, when it's ornate, I mean, a lot of it is built by the Ogier stonemasons, the King's Palace, for example. So there's lots of that. We'll actually come into that in this chapter as well. So regardless, they're in Venice, Illian, whatever. They head to the square of Tamaz, where Fael took her oath. They've crossed over some bridges now. I'm really just moving along. There's a lot of, explaining of what the city looks like and the color of the roof tiles, but we'll just skip past all of that. And they get in this square. There's two identical palaces: the one that's the king's versus the one that's the Council of the Nine. So there was a thing back in the day. The king decreed that the Council of Nine can, build any palace that they want as long as it's not any bigger than his. So pathetically, they just copied his entire palace and made everything 2 feet smaller in every dimension and built it opposite his own. Like,
So spiteful.
so pathetic and childish, but, well, politicians. So nothing new. Few people even look twice at Loyal, which kind of worries him, because then he realizes, oh crap, they're used to seeing Ogier in this city, which means that they might be Ogier here. And we learn later on that there were Ogier there, and from his own steading, Shangtai.
Mm-hmm.
But they just, mysteriously left in the middle of the night and didn't finish their work and just buggered off. But anyway, that's for later on. So Perrin tries to convince him that, look, even if there are other Ogier here, Moraine's not going to let you go. She wants you to stay with us. And he's like, yeah, you're right. He's trying to convince himself. And I'm kind of like, is she, though? But anyway, yeah, I don't know if she really needs him
It
around.
definitely felt like Perrin was throwing him a bone there.
Yeah. And he's kind of like, Loyal's kind of like talking to himself out loud. And he's like, yeah, what if she needs me to navigate the ways again? And Fail's like, what? The ways? What?
Say what? The ways?
Say what now? So, and Perrin's like, shut up, because you're not allowed to tell her. But Zareen, Zareen, Fail, she is listening intently to everything, because obviously now she's not allowed to ask questions. Moraine has forbidden her. She shut the fuck up and you just follow us. So she is eavesdropping on everything all the time. You can't say or even think or shrug or stand up tall or whatever. She notices it. All right, so both Moraine and Land say that something feels wrong in the city, like something is off. And then Perrin hears them because he's got super wolfy ears. And he also starts looking around and notices, like, yeah, you're right, something is off about the city. And you're looking at people's faces, and everybody seems very pissed off. Like they're on the verge of murdering the person that they're speaking with. Even a little boy that's carrying bread or something looks like he's about to kill somebody. So
With
there's
the
something
bread.
bizarre with the bread. So something's very off in the city. Something evil is afoot, which is kind of normal at this stage, I imagine. So
yes.
they cross the Bridge of Flowers, where Perrin notices that the city changes in smells. Lots of smells now in the city, and they head into
Poor
the
Perrin.
into the perfumed quarter. It's all very tongue-in-cheek, because it stinks like shit here, really, is the reason. It does not smell like perfume whatsoever. Lan thinks that they're very poetic people for calling it that. And they head for the inn called the Easing Badger. Its proprietor is Nieda, I pronounce it. How would you do it? Sure. Vili, let us know how it's pronounced.
Nida.
Nida! She needed a place to sleep. And then she is Moraine's spy. Broke Vili now. It's too early to break Vili.
Oh no. Oh no.
That was my best Greek accent.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
I thought that was Italian.
Me too. No offense to our Greek and Italian
Hey,
listeners.
I needed a pasta.
Oh, shit. No, sorry.
Jesus.
I don't know. Can anybody do a Greek accent? What is a Greek accent?
No.
Nobody. Anyway, besides the Greek accent, Nieda is Moraine's spy, but she knows Moraine as Mistress Mari, or Mary, however you want. And she has been in cahoots with Moraine for what it seems like decades. I don't know. I mean, she must be aware that she's Aes Sedai. She doesn't know who she is, her name, but she's been sending her
Pretty
messages, and
No, she's been
pigeons.
sending a message to one of her eyes, one of her many whispering birdies.
Yeah. Little rats or birds or whatever. So,
Is this the first time? Sorry, Joe. Is this the
Yeah.
first time that we see like mention of eyes and ears and like spy networks and stuff? Has anyone said anything about it before? Because it actually becomes a feature later. It feels like something
Yeah.
Robert Jordan sort of devised later down the track. Earlier when we were talking about how bad their communication and stuff is,
Yeah.
like, this might be something that he thought needs addressing, and this might be some
That could
mechanism through which to do that.
be pigeons.
I don't know.
Pigeons and
if
spies.
I've read about eyes and ears, but that doesn't mean anything. We could have discussed
it
it
does
4
not.
podcasts ago, and it's gone now.
One.
One. We spoke about it yesterday. So when they come into the inn, there's a young lady standing on a table singing some very raunchy songs. Perrin, of course, recognizes the tunes, but the words make him blush, much to Fail's enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, this girl was hired after they had more and more fights in the inn, people getting stabbed and just things getting really, really out of hand. And Mistress Neda can't even remember a time like this. So she hired this girl to kind of calm things down and take the men's minds off. It's another aspect of the city turning to the dark side. Something is off. People are angry. People are always fighting. So she hired this girl to sing. So it's also been a hard winter. I think she says it's been the worst winter for 1,000 years, although she just may be grabbing that number out of the air.
Yeah.
But not enough to make her believe in snow, though. Like, it's been a hard winter, but these tales of ice falling from the sky, very funny. So Moraine asks her if there's been anything out of the ordinary that has happened lately, and we learn about a new lord in town, Lord Brend, that suddenly appeared, apparently for some village near Murrendy, or where am I looking? Yes, I think so. And was raised to the Council of the Nine within a week of arriving, and now he's kind of in charge, and all the other lords follow his lead.
That's not dodgy at all.
No, that happens all the time. So, yeah, as we know later on, I don't know, sorry if I'm stealing something from your chapters, but this is Samael.
Yes.
Yep.
He is in Illian, yes. And so the Forsaken are definitely free and setting themselves up around. Moraine is just about to ask something else when Neda mentions that she's also been having dreams of this Lord Brend. And she mentions things like him standing on walking bridges, hanging in air, and everything is foggy. So this is a bit strange for me as well. Like everybody, because we also find out that Billy, her nephew / bouncer, has been having the same dreams. And then later on we find out, of course, that everybody in the city has been having these dreams. So I'm wondering what the purpose is. Is he pulling everybody into the dreams, that everyone in the city, or is it just a side effect of him being there?
It's a side effect. It's a feature of powerful channelers. It's like everyone having the same dreams as Rand when they're camped up in the mountains of the mist. And the same thing is actually mentioned in Caemlyn from Gabriel.
Yes. Now, just wondering if Rand's thing was because he was Taviran or just because he's a strong channeler.
I think it's the latter. I think Moraine, I haven't gone back and checked, but I also looked into this, like what the significance is, and also some of the descriptions of the dreams. And it's a side effect of powerful channelers, which made me ask the question into the ether: what happened in the Age of Legends? Like, did all the non-channelers just have to cop the dreams of all the powerful channelers that were around? Or maybe you can ward against specifically those things, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. Yeah. I think you can ward, as a powerful channeler, you can ward your own dreams so that they are not pushed out. I think, don't correct me on this, I don't care enough about it, but I think someone mentioned at one point that the Forsaken just don't care enough to do it. Like they have the ability to sort of keep their dreams to themselves, but they just don't give a shit.
So is people gonna start dreaming around Nynaeve?
I would imagine
Maybe.
so. But look, the dreams are not his dreams. They're him in the world of dreams, in Tel Anriod, having meetings and strategizing and whatnot. This kind of seems
in
important
his
stuff
dreams
that you wouldn't want everyone to be party to. Why wouldn't you ward your dreams? Like, hey, everyone, come in and see what I'm planning. Anyway.
Maybe it's part of delivering the poison to the city to turn it on itself, like get everyone
suspicious.
Moody. Yeah. What better way to get someone pissed off by stealing their sleep? I mean, if you don't have a good night's rest, you're going to be very intolerable the next day. Imagine you're doing it for months or weeks on end.
Yeah.
Right. There's a point. But also Perrin notices here that Moraine is frightened by this. He doesn't smell fear on her here, but he looks at her face and he's like, she is not happy with this. So anyway, Neda offers them their rooms, and Moraine asks after ships heading to Tyr. But apparently, on the order of Lord Brend, all ships are forbidden to sail to Tyr. And now we know as well, if we've read our chapters, that Tyr as well is also under the control of a Forsaken. Why are they working against each other? Now, have we decided?
You're jumping way far ahead, Joe.
Am I? All right. Well, at this point in this book, basically, there's lots of Forsaken loose ruling lots of cities. But I'm just wondering if they are both Because they're always working against each other. Yes, we get that. But why are they forbidding ships between Illian and Tyr?
So that they can't move people. People can't run.
I mean, what is
They can go
Samael's
anywhere else.
plan here?
I mean, they can just go to another city besides Tyr. It's only specifically Tyr.
The Forsaken have always enjoyed fomenting unrest and war between nations. And what better way to raise the tensions between those two nations that are already at each other's throats, basically, than by shutting down all trade and removing whatever dependencies they have on each other and keeping them isolated from each other.
Yeah.
So that their little hatred of the other can just fester in their own little zone without, clearing any line of communication with them. That's my guess.
That's fits because in our chat group, I shared that screenshot from the Wheel of Time wiki about the Black Aja. I'm actually going to read it now. But anyway, This is another thing about festering unrest and suspicion amongst people. So we know that the Black Aja was founded by Ishamael. And there's this on the Wheel of Time wiki, there's a quote here that due to the fact that the Aes Sedai's medium strength in the one power dwindled dramatically during the time, but not among other female channeler groups, it can be guessed that the Black Sisters eliminated systematically and with false accidents every candidate to the shawl who showed great potential. The same also against candidates with some particular talent as dreamwalking. So this fostering, I never considered that the Black Aja in the tower has been working for thousands of years, killing off potential strong channelers and dreamwalkers, and if there's a little disagreement, flaring it up to make sure that there's constant division in the tower.
It's the way of the chosen. That's how we work. I mean, that's how they work.
Busted. But yeah, I'd never considered that. And if you consider it over a period of 1,000 years, or even longer, that's incredible, man. So that's why the tower is so weak and there's so few channelers left. But it's not the case amongst the Sea Folk, for example, or the Kin, or something like that.
Or the Aiel.
Or the Aiel. So, specifically the White Tower is so weak.
Or the Seanchan.
Or the Seanchan. Yeah, but they got their own problems. Yeah, so... Again, so that's leading into, just specifically just a way to, foster some dissent or some bad feelings. Yeah, so there you go. Okay. I'll accept that. And also she, once they get there, she asks about the ship, obviously, but she wants it in the morning because tonight she has something to do. And Lan looks at her surprised. Like, you didn't tell me you got something to do tonight. She's got some secret little mission. But at that point, Perrin does smell fear on her. So she's got a secret mission that's very dangerous. Lan doesn't know about it, and she's terrified. I hope we find out later on what this mission was.
I'm pretty sure she suspects, knowing about the dreams and the unease in the city, she suspects there might be something about... Perrin has already planted the seed about the Forsaken being loose by telling her about Lanfear. Every time I read about that, I think, yes... Moraine, you faced Agenor and Balthamel at the Eye of the World. You know the Forsaken are loose, or at least some of them. So this shouldn't be so shocking to you. But anyway, I'll give you a little leeway. But I'm pretty sure she went to go check out to see if it is a Forsaken. A powerful channeler pressing their dreams on everyone else in the city could be a Forsaken. With all those little bits of information together, you could hypothesize that there is a Forsaken in charge. The quote from the book is... Moraine was frightened. It was a far more terrifying thought than Moraine angry. He could imagine her angry. He could not begin to conceive of her afraid.
Yeah. But the way that she said it, I need a ship in the morning because tonight I have a mission, she already had this mission prior to arriving. She had a plan.
Something
not
happened
just listening.
When she walked in there.
You think she made that plan up on the spot? I just got the impression that there was
she could.
A well-laid plan already. That pre-hearing
That's
about
the Aes Sedai way. She wants you to think that everything is all hunky-dory.
She totally fooled me.
She Aes Sedai'd you.
She Aes Sedai'd me totally. Anyway. All right. I'm just asking a lot of questions here.
No, you must. That's why we're here.
So they get their rooms and they go and drop all their shit off in the rooms and come back down for dinner, which is fish. Surprise, surprise. This is when Nate also mentions that there were Ogier there, but they just left in the middle of the night, and it wasn't about payment or anything. And Moraine mentions here as well, like the Ogier are sensitive to certain things, So they might have sensed the evil. They might have been aware that something is off, and they just
Very much like L'Oreal did riding in.
Yeah.
He was ears flicking and worried. He's like, nah, something's not good here.
All right. So yeah, they can sense something is off. They have a delightfully awkward dinner. Nobody talks. When they do
So
speak,
bad.
Moraine gives them dagger eyes. Shut the fuck up and eat your fish.
I don't like fish.
It's like a mother at the table. Shut up and eat your fish. And then Perrin starts to smell something vile. Something that he has smelled before, twice before. One in the city or the town of Remen that they passed through, and the other one, I can't remember.
It's Jarrah.
Jarrah, yes. All right. So originally we thought those were dark hounds that he was smelling.
Mm-hmm.
But
This is why I'm grinning at you.
yes. To our listeners who can't see, Morris has a huge grin on his face. It's just teeth. And Moraine and Lan don't seem to notice anything. And Perrin's really worried because this smell is so strong. And it's so strong, it must be coming from inside the common room where they're sitting. And he's looking around and nothing is out of the ordinary. And it's just them and then the girls singing on the table and the same people that were sitting there. And then a group of men crossing the floor. And that's when he does a double take and a group of men crossing the floor. And when he looks up at them, he sees 6 men walking towards them. And ordinary faces is very key here. 6 men with very ordinary faces. Oh, and daggers. So when he sees the daggers, he's like, they've got knives. And he throws their cheese platter at them, which I thought is funny.
Yes.
Not the cheese platter, Perrin. Anything but the cheese platter. Well, after he screams that, Lan is up to his feet in a second, and Moraine has already also beaten him to the punch and thrown a fireball and burned one of these dudes alive straight away. So she is quick on her feet. I mean, if she beats Lan to action, that is saying something. Perrin's axe is upstairs in the bedroom where he left it. So he's got no thing. So he just picks up his chair and rips it apart with his bare hands to form a club out of one of the legs.
Feel the beef.
Feel the beef. And just proceeds to club the shit out of all these grey men that are apparently attacking him. Moraine is standing off to one side, and because of such close quarters fighting, she can't throw fireballs. But they're ignoring her, and they're ignoring Fail, and they're coming all surrounding Perrin.
So, pause, Jenny. Pause. I had trouble getting a clear picture of what happened in this fight because, as I'm sure you're about to explain, it all happens in like split seconds, right? Like Billy's on his way from the door. He hasn't even gotten there and all 6 are dealt with. One of them is burnt to a crisp. We know we can account for that one.
Yes.
Perrin smashes at least one of them in the head because he mentions he can hear the bone crunch of like the chair leg making contact with the skull. But he also says during the fight that all he can do is sort of like turn knives away from him because of how cramped the fight is. I read that as Perrin killed one, Moraine killed another one. Who killed the other 4?
Lan.
But Fail killed one. She retrieves her knife
Okay.
from his chest after the fight. And Lan, I imagine, killed the others. He's barehanded, but I mean, that's not going to stop him.
No, it isn't. And yes, you're right. Like his sword is up in his room, as they mentioned soon after this. And Loyal didn't even get a chance to swing his chair that he
he picked up the chair, but he's still holding it at the end of the fight.
Yeah.
Like everything. I mean, just because Perrin's recollection is hazy, doesn't mean that he wasn't smashing heads in between deflecting those knives.
Yeah.
He could have taken. I think like Moraine got one with a fireball, Fail got one with a dagger, and the other 4 were between him and Lan. Because that's all. That's the only people that's left. The exact ratios, I don't know.
I was just keen to get your impression because I didn't know if I should read that as Perrin smashed all of them with this chair leg and he just murdered 4 or 5 guys. 4 guys if Fail and Moraine got one each. But Lan is also just right there. And I mean, he is fast as a snake, right? Like he is probably in there snapping necks.
Totally. Am I the only one here that's like asking the question, why didn't Moraine just grab them with air?
No, you are not. That is the exact thought that I had.
my thought was like, why didn't she grab all of them? Like, if you can't pinpoint one, just stop everyone.
Yeah.
But that might be quite a complex weave. And I mean, she is, channeling weaves. She has to still hit a target with a weave. And if they're moving around and stuff, it might not be that easy to just trap one or only certain people in this, what I imagine to look like a cartoon fight, which is like a cloud of dust with arms and legs and stuff sticking out the sides every now and then. But yeah, I think everyone probably thinks, Maureen, why don't you do more? But RJ makes a point of her standing to the side and looking flustered because she can't target any one specific person, and I have to assume that's why she couldn't do something with air.
Right.
Shrug
it indeed.
Be better, Maureen.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Jokes, we love you. All right, unpause.
Bloop. All right, so yeah, the fight's done before Billy can even get from the door, as you mentioned there. So he's just kind of standing there. His job is now clean up this mess we made, change the sawdust
Throw him
on
in the
floor.
canal.
Just chuck
Not
them
the
in
back
the
way,
canal.
please. And this makes me
Ask
wonder.
The question.
Yeah, what's the
Why
question?
those canals are so bloody dirty? Because they just throw their dead in there.
Yes.
How many dead
Just
bodies
corpses.
is floating down? But yeah, this also made me another question, not that question, but another question was like, Mistress Nieda was just like, yeah, just take them out the back. And he was just so fine with it. Is this a thing he does often, disposing of bodies and just throwing them in canals?
And the girl that was singing just like keep singing and the patrons keep drinking. Like everyone is
like-
pretty chill about the mass murder that just happened.
Like, does this happen a lot? This is weird. But anyway, it's happened. So Billy is there. He just grabs a grey man in each hand by the belt and picks them up and goes and chucks them out the back.
Cartoonishly, just grabs them by the belt and drags them out.
Like luggage.
And this is where Moraine actually IDs them as grey men. She's like, oh, grey men. And they were after you, Perrin. Like, immediately get everything. So now everybody in the room knows that they were grey men, that Moraine is now an Aes Sedai. Fireballs shooting from hands usually gives that away. And everybody's kind of like in a stunned silence. Also noted that none of the men that were listening to the singer actually got up and did anything or helped. Just like you say, just carry on regardless of what's happening.
Just the state of the whole city.
Yeah.
Hey, keep it down back there.
Trying to listen to my raunchy songs. So yeah, while Billy is disposing of all the bodies, Moraine heads over to the door to start her secret mission. Lan intercepts her, but she won't let him come with her, and she won't tell him what it is. But she does mention a very key line that some dangers you are not equipped to handle. So regardless, if you came with, you'd probably just die anyway. And if I do die on this little mission, you will be compelled to return to the tower anyway. Mirel, is it that he's passed that his bond will be passed on to? And she also adds to that, take Perrin with you, because I have been a fool. I've overlooked Perrin so much, and 6 grey men walking into the middle of a common room to murder him in front of everybody. It's like someone is after him. So take him with you if this does go badly for me.
Yeah.
And with that, she just leaves through the door and heads out into the stormy night to go perform whatever tasks she wants to perform.
Yeah. The thing about Moraine now, quote unquote, realizing or at least accepting or elevating in her own mind the importance of Perrin to the whole thing is sort of set up in the chapters leading up to this one. Like all that talk about, I will cut you from the pattern. I will end your thread. If the girl does anything, you will share her fate, sort of thing. Like she is very hard on Perrin and makes him understand in no uncertain terms that her focus is Rand. And if Perrin or Fail do anything to jeopardize Rand's chances of fulfilling the prophecy of the dragon, she is going to take drastic steps. But after this encounter and what happens in the following chapters, when she also acknowledges about Perrin's dreams, your wolf dreams are true, I think that was done as a build-up to this and her now going, okay, wait, I was a fool to discount Perrin and his importance in the pattern. So it's just nice to know that, or at least I hope that her sort of harshness towards Perrin will abate somewhat so that she can sort of include Perrin in all their plans.
Right on.
And her last words as she leaves there are, Lan says to her, "You speak as if you're already dead." And Moraine says, "The wheel weaves as the wheel wills, and the shadow darkens the world."
Mm.
Like she's ready to accept it, and she's already accepted her fate. She is,
Mm.
like even though Perrin knows she's frightened because he could see it on her and stuff, she is not daunted by what she feels she has to do.
All right, let's speculate.
Please.
What did
For a change.
Moraine go and do? Like, what is
Well,
it at that moment that she realized that prompted her to just leave them and go? That's more important.
Well, that she had that plan to go anyway. But it's obvious. It's obvious that she wanted to go check out the Forsaken. Like she wanted to go make sure her suspicions were correct. That's the only reason I can think that she's afraid.
So there were a couple of signs when they came into the city. Like we said before, she knows that Perrin has had these dreams that are saying, because in one of Perrin's dreams he saw multiple Forsaken, right? Not just Lanfear. He saw the three. I think it was Ravin, Belal, or Samael, and Ishamael in Teleran Riyadh and Lanfear. So he's told Moraine about the Forsaken in his dreams. They could tell that something was wrong in the city, and they can tell that everyone is sharing this dream. So there's a couple things coming together. And then when she says that she's got this thing to do in the evening, Lan is surprised because this is a new plan. This is something she's just come up with
off the bat
very recently. She hasn't had a chance to discuss this with Lan at all. So I think what she's going to go do is exactly what we've said up until now, that she's going to go check. She's going to go do some reconnaissance. Like, what can she learn? She might not be going to the palace and peeking through a window to see if she can recognize one of the Forsaken, but she's definitely going around and asking some pointed questions. She probably has other people that she knows in the city. She's probably going to go do her own investigation that evening. Why she leaves Lan behind, I don't know. But in the end, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
As we'll find out in the next chapter.
I've got a bit of a suspicion that she just went out and did some sort of thing that would have been picked up by one of the Forsaken, in this case Samael, that sort of maybe channeled or did something and wanted to do it away from them, like far away to see, because if someone would be sent to her or a Darkhound sent after her, because
what would that be? I mean, she just channeled a fireball.
She just channeled, yes. So that would have been a sort of the first sort of ping. Something happened, and then sure you would be able to find out that 6 grey men that's not his has died there. So okay, someone sent someone after me, after someone that channeled in my city. But then she does a second event away from them, not to put the pressure on where they were staying, could sort of divert the attention of whatever Forsaken's there. And she killed, well, as I know, well, spoiler cast, she kills the Darkhound in that process of Lan trying to alert her a little bit later on. That we'll deal with in your chapter now.
I think Lan kills it.
Lan? Not her.
No, it's Lan.
It's Lan.
We'll get there, but yeah. Look, the Grey Men and a Darkhound have now already been to that inn. Her leaving them in the inn and going elsewhere won't achieve anything. Like, whoever's looking for them, whoever sent either the Darkhound or the Grey Men, already know about the inn and that they're there. So if anything, if she wanted to keep them safe, she would have moved them somewhere else and then maybe gone somewhere else to channel again. She wouldn't just leave them there. I think she went to go make sure that she knows what they are dealing with. And I think that she went to go check whether it is as her fears are, because she's frightened, right? Look, what's going to frighten Moraine? I think her fright, or her frightened sense that Perrin is picking up from her, and her fears and her little side mission that she sprung on Lan, that Lan didn't know she was going to do, is a spur of the moment thing. She's devised it as they've come into the city, and after this event, she's like, I need to go make sure, I need to know what we're dealing with here. Is there a Forsaken in the city, or Black Arger, or something? She doesn't know exactly, and she doesn't like not knowing, as we know. She went to go find out. And as we'll see at the end of the next chapter, she does. And she comes back and she tells them exactly what's going on. Get the fuck out of Dodge. So, I mean, the fact that she knows that, she comes back with a report. She's like, yes, Samael rules in Illian. Tells me that is what she went to go verify.
Strange behaviors and actions.
It's not that weird. It's unexpected for her and for Lan.
Well,
but
usually their modus operandi is get on the horse and run. Just run.
But there's larger implications to knowing whether the Forsaken are out or not. Or knowing which Forsaken are out, or where they've set up shop. What we're dealing with, even in these last couple of chapters, is Samael in Illian, Belal in Tyr, and Ravin in Caemlyn. Right, like that's 3 powerful male channelers already running 3 of the biggest, if not the 3 biggest cities in the world. That's noteworthy. That's something she needs to check and find out. Because now, when war starts brewing between Tyr and Illian, which it already seems to be when you listen to the boat captains, how they talk about their respective lords from Tyr and stuff, they seem to feel like there is tension in the air. Those bloody Illianers and those bloody Terrans, like they're not far from coming to blows, and they've warred with each other for centuries. So now it'll be good to know if it's a Forsaken that's pushing this war agenda, running the military-industrial complex, selling weaponry contracts to the highest bidder.
No, I still want to know what she goes to do to find that out. Like, she uncovered the Enigma machine. It's like, break their code. What?
Those are Aes Sedai secrets that you will never be privy to. Nor will we. What else from that chapter?
Whew. Well, it's just that from the start, they walk into that city and it's just, this isn't friendly.
Ominous.
This is, and Perrin's like, he's used to smelling stuff and stuff not smelling right. But he's sort of differentiating between what smells like sewerage and what smells like evil.
Speaking of smells, I was getting ready to relitigate the old Darkhounds outside Jarrah conversation, because it's now, I mean, it's in this chapter and the next one, but Perrin talks about that is definitely the smell. It's the smell he smelled in Jarrah, and it's the smell he smelled outside Remen. And in the previous episode, 1 or 2 episodes ago, I was saying that, okay, cool, he saw the paw print in the stone outside of Remen. He smelled the smell. To me, that means obviously the smell in Jarrah was also the thing that made the paw print, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, Darkhounds in Jarrah. But now we know that there was a Darkhound paw print outside of Remen. We know that. Lan and Moraine didn't comment on it, but Perrin did smell the grey men in Jarrah and in Remen. And at the risk of going ahead as well a little bit, is that we know that Samael has the Darkhounds. The Darkhounds are like his, or the ones that we've encountered up until this point, or will be encountering in the coming chapters. And I was then looking at the map thinking, how far afield would Samael send his Darkhounds? Because Jarrah is right all the way west towards the Mountains of Mist, right? It was as they came out of the mountains, they hit Jarrah. So would his Darkhounds range that far from Illian? And I guess the answer to that would be, like, if he's trying to catch the Dragon Reborn and he has, a bead on him, he probably would send them anywhere in the world. Like, it wouldn't matter. Like, they also don't operate on their own, I don't think. I think they have masters that sort of manage the packs and stuff. But I still think, despite all this, I still think it was Darkhounds in Jarrah. I still think it was a Darkhound outside Remen. I mean, it made the paw print, and we'll read some more paw print stuff in the next chapter. Anything else?
No, it's pretty onto the pace now.
Sure is. All right, chapter 43, Shadow Brothers. The singing girl resumes her routine, incredibly, as Billy comes in and collects 2 more grey men for his collection outside in the canal. Lan comes over to Perrin and he asks Perrin how he sensed the grey men, since Aes Sedai and warders can't sense them like they do other Shadowspawn. And Perrin tells him that he smelled them, speaking softly so that only Lan can hear, with Fail clearly trying to listen in. Side note, I keep wanting to call Fail Zareen because Perrin is calling her Zareen the whole time. From his point of view, it's always Zareen. So I'm going to try and see how long it takes Perrin to switch over to Fail. I'm sure Robert Jordan drops a pretty big sign where Perrin sort of decides to himself in a moment, okay, I will acquiesce and call her Fail. But it's interesting that he's like persisted with Zareen because of how, adamant she is that she is called Fail. He says here that he also smelled them at Jarrah and Remen. So Lan concludes that they are following Rand, at least initially, and now they're also following Perrin. Lan speaks up now and he says that he's going to go look around outside, and he asks Perrin and Loyal to help see, because he says to Perrin, your eyes might see something mine miss, and Loyal, your Ogier folk, you see well in the dark as well. And Perrin takes it as a measure of Lan's worry that he's even asking for help. Fael asks him what he's looking for, but Lan only responds with, I'll know it when I see it. And I just love that Fael is constantly calling Lan Stoneface. she is poking the bear at every opportunity, and I think it's either in this moment or sometime soon around this where Perrin notices Lan wanting to respond and then just deciding not to. And it's like, I'm just going to let it go. I'm not going to win this one. And Fael is getting one over on old Stoneface. They all follow Lan outside, Perrin still clutching his chair leg and Fael still holding her knife. They don't see anything out in the street except like a dude running in the street and some darkening clouds and the weather seeming to take a turn towards rain. But Perrin smells what he thinks are fireworks. And then he says, no, not fireworks, more like burnt sulfur. Fael comments on how our beefy boy's considerable, beef, being able to pull that chair apart like twigs, and Perrin just doesn't know how to react, right? Like Zareen or Fael has him totally off balance. Like she is so deep under his skin, he doesn't know whether he's Arthur or Martha, right? Like Joe, you said earlier, he doesn't know whether he should be slouching or standing up taller, and when he does anything, he reprimands himself for it. So Loyal's just sort of looking around, unsure of what he should be looking for. He's sort of like looking up and down the street and then up at the roof. But Lan seems to notice something and starts following what looks to be like a trail from out where he was in the street back toward the inn. So Perrin goes to look what Lan is sort of checking out, and he sees a paw print in the solid stone, and the smell of burnt sulfur is most strong near this paw print. And the tracks lead sort of toward the inn, and then it looks like a large hound rested its forepaws where he sees the paw print, and then away again. And Lan just goes, dark hound. Dun, dun, dun. So there's the first acknowledgement from Lan that there are dark hounds around. And he explains that they leave no tracks in dirt or anything like that, like a normal hound would, but they do in solid stone. This one seemed to be hunting for something and then found it and has now returned to tell its master. Which prompted the thought, how does a darkhound tell a master anything? Just like coated barks.
What's that, lassie? Little Timmy's down the well?
No, you oaf. To Perrin, you had me hunting is in the easing the badger.
I wonder what easing the badger translates to in darkhound speech.
Fael is like, what? And she's reacting to all this talk of grey men and fades and darkhounds with like total disbelief. So Lan just says to her, like, here's your final chance to swear that you will hold your tongue and leave us to our business. And I will take that oath on Moraine's behalf. But she still declines. And her words are brave, but she sounds and smells afraid. So, Perrin is already, like he's mentioned a couple times in these chapters, that he can smell fear, which is a cool device. Remember we said earlier that when this smell starts coming up, he hasn't used it yet, but here he's already talking about being able to smell fear. So his senses are evolving, like he's becoming more attuned to them so he can use them better. Perrin asks Lan why neither the warder or Moraine could sense the dark out. And Lan gives just sort of like a cryptic answer, but it is ominous, sort of like, if what I think is happening, we're all doomed or whatever, dark musings he spews forth. But he tells them to go get some sleep, and as he fears they're going to have some hard riding ahead of them. So Perrin asks Lan what he's going to do, and Lan says he's going to go after Moraine to tell her about the Darkhound, and he sort of, in that moment, seems to justify it to himself. He's like, she can't be mad at me for that, can she? Which is a very rare peek behind Lan's stony facade, like he's actually sort of like, he's questioning his own actions now. Should I disobey Moraine to this end? But he's been looking for an excuse to go after her anyway. He had a very hard time letting her go off on this mission by herself, as would be expected from a warder. It starts to rain as they all head back inside the inn, but Lan's sort of like he's on a mission now, so he rushes up the stairs. Before Perrin can get to the top of the stairs, Lan's already on his way back with his sword and his color shifting cloak. And I think Loyal mentions that if Lan's intending on wearing his color shifting cloak in the city, then he's not afraid of being noticed as a warder anymore. Like, things are pretty dire. Fail looks like she wants to stay with Perrin, but so they're sort of heading towards their rooms now. She looks like she wants to stay with Perrin, but he tells her to go get some sleep, and he just basically shuts the door in her face.
Yeah.
I like the little detail of the doors being sort of slatted, I imagine because of the humidity, and like everyone has slatted doors, so there's always a draft going through the rooms. And again, because of the humidity and the heat, Perrin strips down. I mean, it's about to start raining, but Perrin strips down to his undies and he crawls onto the bed thinking he's not even going to need the blankets or anything. But he's intent on entering the wolf dream to get some answers to some of these lingering questions that he has. So dreams sort of tumble through his head because he falls asleep fairly quickly without lighting a candle or anything like that. He just goes straight to sleep, and dreams about dark hounds, fades, and grey men all sort of, I wouldn't say haunt him, but like they're all there. And also, this was an interesting one. A tall, slender man repeatedly features in his dreams with a richly embroidered coat and boots with a gold fringe, holding what can only be Calandor, right? So a bright, shining sword. These felt strange, like they were not Perrin's dreams. So, okay, who could it be, right? Like, so let's run down the prime suspects. I mean, obviously Samael.
Mm-hmm.
But he's short and
Samael's
stocky.
description is short and stocky. Ishmael? Could be him. No? Belal?
It's Belal.
Craving the sword? You think so?
I know so.
Ha.
I know it in my soul. I feel it in my feet.
I think that Belal is also not tall. Of all of those guys, Ishmael is the only one that's tall and slender. But I went and I did some digging. I was like, wait a minute. Samael's supposed to be short and stocky because I've got a pretty decent mental image of him with his, his close crop beard and like his short,
square,
stocky nature.
Square beard. And
exactly. Yeah. But this also now only rings a bell after I did some digging. Samael was always peeved at being short and stocky. He always wanted to be tall. So if these were Samael's dreams, he's dreaming himself taller and thinner, holding Calandor.
Huh? No, you gotta, you gotta give me more than that. No, I like it, but
they're in Illian, and everyone is dreaming about Lord Brand holding a sword. Okay. I don't think it's Belal pushing a dream in Perrin's direction from Tyr.
Yeah, okay, that doesn't make much sense.
I don't think so either.
So I think this is just like a little hint at Samael's. I mean, because I remember actually reading about it in the book. Like the Forsaken talk about it amongst themselves. They almost like laugh at Samael and his obsession with being taller. He presents himself in ways that make him seem taller and all that sort of stuff all the time. So I like to think that this theory is fun. That Samael is dreaming himself taller, holding Calandor and sort of making kings and queens kneel at his feet and that sort of stuff. Anyway, inconsequential. But then the dreams that Perrin is having, they change, and Perrin knows he is in the wolf dream, and he's standing on top of a high stone spire with rugged mountains all around him. Did you guys get the idea that this was in the waste? Like scraggly bush, like the trees and the little bits of grass all seem like hard scrabble,
But yeah, like nothing's survival. Growing. No, I thought he was in the Blight.
Could be. Beyond the Blight, because the Blight is almost like tropical and hot, and there's a lot of vegetation
in the blasted
lands.
Yeah. Okay, so like when I think of the Aiel Waste, I think of flat, white, like salt pans kind of a thing. Like there's nothing. There's no bushes and scrubs and things. It's full on desert. But I kind of figured north of the Mountains of Doom.
Okay. Cool. Could be. Yeah, I have no definitive answer.
Not just a wild guess, all right?
So as he's looking around, he sort of spots like a black portal in the air, and through it he sees Matt dicing with Balsamon, and he shouts at Matt to warn him, but the vision sort of disappears. And as he's looking around, because he's also looking up in the sky, because he realizes or he remembers that Hopper can fly, and he's trying to sort of summon Hopper to him. He's looking up, and he sees another portal sort of opening up, through which he sees Egwene, Elayne, and Nynaeve looking at a metal cage with a sort of like a trap spring door. And as he watches, they step inside and they get trapped. And then a woman with her hair all in braids is laughing at them. And then a woman all in white is laughing at her.
Yeah.
So, braid woman, Leandrin, right?
Yes. Must be.
And Joe, you've read ahead. It is Leandrin that actually appears to the girls after they get trapped, I think.
Yeah.
I think she's like there. You know, it's not just a trap she said. She's there, yeah.
She's there.
And then Lanfear laughing at Leandrin?
I would imagine so.
A woman in white, but I mean, Perrin knows Lanfear now. So why did he not say he saw Lanfear laughing at Leandrin?
But didn't he see them from behind?
Maybe.
Because that's why he only sees their braids, and then he only sees the white dress. He doesn't see their faces.
True. Yeah, that could be it. None of that is Hopper.
No.
So Perrin continues to try and summon. He's like using his need, you know, he's calling out to Hopper. And as that portal disappears and he resumes trying to summon Hopper, Hopper does seem to just land next to him on the stone spire as if he leapt down from somewhere higher. Probably the sky, you know, like he's in a wolf dream, he can basically fly. So, okay, I'm gonna paraphrase here. This is basically Perrin just trying to get some answers out of Hopper about what his dreams mean and if they're real, you know, like should Perrin be assuming what he's seeing in his dreams is happening. But Hopper just keeps responding in that typical cryptic wolfy way. But what Hopper does do is he gives us the wolf names for Ishmael and Lanfear, which are Heartfang and Moonhunter.
Love it.
Wolves just have the best names for everybody and for things and stuff. It is.
I'm so glad the wolves are part of the story. Everything about them is awesome.
Yeah. So Perrin mentions to Hopper the Grey Men and the Darkhounds tracking him, and Hopper calls them the Not Dead and the Shadow Brothers, and he tells Perrin to just flee. Great danger. So when Perrin asks him why they're hunting him, Hopper just jumps up and knocks Perrin off the spire, still saying, "Flee, young bull, flee the Shadow Brothers." You know, the wolves obviously knowing what a big deal the Darkhounds are. And even as Perrin is falling, he's asking why as he's busy falling down from the spire, and he realizes he's about to hit the ground. And as he braces for impact, he wakes up and he sees the burning candle next to his bed, and then realizes, hang on, I didn't light a candle. But he notices then Fail is right there. She's just come into his room, watched him sleep like a totally normal person.
Light a candle, and she's sitting there. I think she's got like the thinker kind of pose, you know, with her fist on her chin, just staring at him in the kind of dark. What the fuck?
Totally. And she tells him, you mutter and thrash in your sleep. And then she starts rattling off these points. She goes, you're Taverin. Land thinks your eyes are special. Grey men want to kill you. You travel with an Aes Sedai, a warder, and an Ogier. You free a caged Aiel. You kill White Cloaks. Who are you, farm boy? The Dragon Reborn? But she says that in a sort of like joking way. But Perrin sort of like has a bit of a reaction to it, and she just says, whoever you are, you could do with more hair on your chest. Just has to bring it back to the old base instincts. Everything comes back to flirtation. So Perrin hastily gets dressed, and he wonders if Fail is actually the beautiful woman that Min told him to run from and not Lanfear, which to me was telling, because Perrin in the beginning, when he met Fail, couldn't decide whether she was pretty or not. In the previous chapter, he refers to her as pretty. And in this one, he's like, could this be the beautiful woman that Min told me to run away from? So, okay, Perrin, you think she's beautiful now, do you? Cool.
Just quickly amping that up a bit as they carry on now from ugly to pretty, now beautiful.
Yeah, rivaling Lanfear in his eyes.
Yes. Oh, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But like Perrin, you know, like Jody's saying, is holding, you know, is trying to like supplant the most beautiful woman ever known with Fail from Min's viewing. Which is great. I like the fact that Perrin is so into Fail, and I mean he has to be to justify all the searching and warring he does later.
So now you see what a good little thinking session on a little stool does. You know, it's important for him.
It is. So he just asks Fael straight up, like, what she's doing there and who she really is. And she just laughs and she says, she's Fael. Who did he think? The woman of his dreams? And Perrin has sort of like a noticeable reaction, like the whole Lanfear in his dreams, run away from the woman in your dreams sort of thing, which, he just reacts to. But before he can actually answer, the door crashes open, revealing Moiraine with a face as pale and grim as death. And she just says, your wolf dreams tell as truly as a dreamer's, Perrin. The Forsaken are loose, and one of them rules in Illian.
Dun,
That's
dun,
the
dun, dun. Yeah. Very uncharacteristic of Moiraine to kick a fucking door down. It's like Jack Donaghy.
It's her turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're really like ratcheting up the suspense now, and the sort of like, I like how the presence of the Forsaken is being given a bit more weight now than it was before. It sort of seems a bit fumbled in the Eye of the World, where there were two Forsaken at the same time, and it was sort of just like, oh, here you are, and then Rand's off fighting another one in a dream shard or whatever it was that he was in near Tywin's Gap. But now Robert Jordan is taking a bit more time to sort of like make us really consider the implications of the Forsaken being loose and ruling in a city. And yeah, it is ominous. I remember thinking in previous reads like just how hectic the Forsaken are supposed to be. But when, on a reread, you're reading about them sort of having arguments and bickering, and you can remember how petty they can be. It takes away from that threat. But I like how in these chapters that threat is made more substantial again.
Very much so.
All right. What else?
I think we covered that in pretty thoroughly. It wasn't a massive chapter. It was
No, it wasn't. All right. So then let's get to some action in chapter 44 called Hunted. Take it away, Villy.
Sure. All right. Perrin jumps up, and he already knows without asking, but he still asks, do we leave? Gets dressed. He doesn't care that he's standing in his breeches in front of them right now. They can look all they want. And I think that's more meant to Zareen Fael. That
See, you're also calling her Zareen.
Yeah, no, I even wrote down Zareen. I was like,
yeah, me too.
I want to kind of stick to what the books is delivering. But yeah,
I do that with Gabriel later as well.
Yeah, so they now get ready. Perrin gets all his things on, clips his bow, gets his axe, the drill, stamps his feet in there. And, just questioning like, okay, cool, what's going to be the go? But Moiraine at that stage sort of just focuses on Zareen. It's like, you are now in or you not, type of thing. Oh no, that actually comes a bit later. They head out into the rain. It's now started raining, like pouring rain. And as soon as they get into the stables, Lan had already saddled the horses, and they had also gotten a horse for Zareen, and saying, well, I hope that you can ride, because if you can't, you'll learn on this run, or you'll basically fall behind and die. And she just sort of leaps up, grabs the pommel, and it's like, once I was a horse, I think.
She says, I was on a horse once.
I prefer Villy's.
She does not say that she thinks she was a horse.
I get what in the image in my mind is that she grabs the pommel, and that's all she uses to get on the horse. She doesn't put her foot in the stirrup. She just goes whoop, and she's on top of the horse.
That's what I thought as well.
All right.
I mean, we know she's Saldaean, and we know that her dad is Davron Bashir, and that the Saldaeans have these like incredible horsemen, like they're almost like the Rohirrim.
Yes,
we know that.
Don't we? The Saldaeans are famous
horse people,
horse folk.
They're a little bit like the
horse
Dothraki
lords.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So, but Perrin wants to get answers from Moiraine, and he's pushing her like he likes to push her. And in all of this conversation, obviously the mistress, the inn's mistress, is there, Nida, and he's like, "Well, who's after me? Like, why are they after me? I'm not the bloody dragon reborn. Rand's the dragon reborn." And so the penny drops. It's like,
No.
oh, I should maybe have not said that. And Zareen is at that stage sort of jaw drops, and Moraine's like, there's no time for this. Right now, you are sealed to us. Like, your life is now with us. Come hell or high water, and fly, you fools. Got to get out of there.
Her words are, she just looks at Zareen. She looks at her and she goes, you are sealed to us now. There is no turning back for you, ever.
Yeah, it's done.
Shit.
In all fairness, they did give her plenty of opportunities to leave.
So many chances, yeah.
Yep. She wanted to know what they're up to. She was keen. And, well, at that point, she is kind of like, well, now there's no getting away from this. They are onto the horses, and Moraine is already bolted. She's on that leap, and they are on it. And it starts clearing as they sort of make it out of the city. It was great with the rain in the city because it sort of gave them a bit of cover. And once they sort of cleared and the rain stopped, and Perrin's like, oh, well, okay, this is good news, Lan. At least we're not riding wet. And he's like, no, this is horrible news. Darkhounds like open, clear nights. They hate the rain. The bigger the rain, the stronger the rain, they might not even leave. So they've got that unfortunate reality now that, much like in the Waste and everywhere else, they're always on the run from something. And this, it's worse than worms, it appears. And they, during this conversation piece already, they can hear the howls. And they're like, okay, well, how bad can it be? They are pretty far behind us. And just to be informed that, no, they run like horses. Jody's shaking head. they run faster than horses. We're not going to outrun them. We're going to have to make a stand. And it's like, no, but 10 miles, no. It was just a little while, and then it's like, okay, they're closer. The howls are now all coming closer. And Moraine sees sort of an outcropping with no trees and shrubberies around it for a good 200-300 yards. And she says, up there, go. And the horses go up, and it's wet and muddy and stony, and it almost looks like the ruins of something in the past. And they get up there, and Perrin looks back, and he jumps off the horse, pulls out his bow, and he's about to get a bowstring out. And they're like, you can try, but it's not going to do much. Either way, he, in one sitting, just bends that long bow, notches in the bowstring, pulls an arrow out, and already you can see sort of, okay, they right down at the bottom. It was just a matter of these hounds catching up to them in moments. And he draws, and he waits, and he's going to be like, oh, this is insane. He knows he's a good shot, but not as good as Rand. But these things are running fast, and he's not going to fire until 300 yards, and then 300 yards, and he lets loose, and the arrow hits home. But it's a stumble.
No effect.
No, it's up again. It's not like Grolm into the eye and dead.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing about the Grolm.
Yeah, and but what else can he do? It's like, okay, 200 yards, next arrow, loose, and okay, bit of a better hit. Maybe sort of connected and taken that one out, maybe not. But he's like, oh, well, at this pace, I've got one arrow left. Grabs the last arrow, pulls back, and as he looses it, Moraine's like, now, and it's just between her hands, ball of fire, and night becomes day. And it's white, and it was then gone. And all of them are gone. That's it. Bale fired 10 Darkhounds, or 10 and a half, 9 and a half. We don't know how Perrin lose those arrows, but just deals them a massive critical hit. Yeah. And she's like, well, right now she's worried that I hope he couldn't see it. And Zareen's like, who? It's like, somehow, like, but we're like far away from the city. Like, what could he have seen? She's like, you don't understand. And Perrin is just, whoa, what was that? Like, what was that? And Moraine now decides to actually just give them a little bit of information. about
Uncharacteristically, yeah.
uncharacteristically of her. Maybe now she thinks like sharing with Perrin a bit more would be helpful to her cause. But she's like, well, that's something that has been sworn to almost something like the 3 oaths to never be used again. And
Forbidden.
I will probably be stilled if anyone knew that I used it. But
Everyone's using it, like on a chapter by chapter basis.
Yeah.
Rand is toying with it as a new friend, and Nynaeve has already
Nynaeve has
thrown
just
it.
stumbled onto it.
Just like, there we go. Well, the pattern brings what needs to come into it. The pattern brought it back. It's woven in now. So they then get back on the horse, and they're going to move. Like Loyal is already sort of ears twitching in the back. Like, do we intend to wait, or do we vamonos now? Let's get out of here. So they get moving, and that is with them riding. Just a little section break in the chapter there. And we straight back to the gambler, Matt and Thom. They are on the road to Caemlyn, ready from their quest to deliver the letter for Elayne to Morghese, and camping out a little bit off the Caemlyn road, feeling a little bit more at ease. Thom is busy tuning the harp, while Matt is very characteristically Matt doing exactly what he swore he wouldn't do. He's busy prying open the fireworks, and he's like looking at, and I remember doing this as a kid.
Oh yeah,
Break. Yeah, you had to figure out how it worked. You had to burn it. You had to
Little
burn
Tom
your
Thumbs.
hands. Yeah, little Tom Thumbs, and
how else are you going to collect a whole jar full of gunpowder to put a long fuse into? Other
Exactly.
than by opening up fireworks and collecting it.
Yeah,
I
know,
went. Maybe I shouldn't record this stuff, but I went one further. I used to be in the shooting team in my high school years, and we would steal ammunition only so that we can break the bullet tips off it and collect the little bit of gunpowder that's in this .22 target shooting guns, so you can build it up into a massive lot and just set it on fire, because that's what kids do. They burn stuff.
Yeah,
that's what kids do: steal ammunition and break apart bullets. Every kid's, regular Saturday.
It was a
afternoon.
different time, Jody.
Any kids out there listening to this, definitely do not do this thing.
Stop stealing
Blood and
ammunition.
Ashes does not condone the building of bombs or stealing of ammunition.
No, we don't. Yeah, so, but
Just
our
for the record.
protagonist, Matt, he's most definitely into that.
Yeah.
He's busy pulling apart fireworks, and he is now seeing that it's like
After
sand.
Eludra told him specifically not to do that.
She's just guarding the secret with myth and secrecy. That's it. Matt's a little
Matt's
bit more
justification.
He's like, nah, I've got this. I've done this before. I didn't blow anything up when I did it back in Emansfield. And yes, there was a queue of 5 people that was going to behead me for the doing of what I was doing. But he did it, and no one died. So he's pretty certain. And he's only doing the little one, the smallest of the 5 or whatever he got. And he's like, okay, cool. And Thom is tuning the harp, and he's like, oh, that stuff is next sorcery. It's like next level to Aes Sedai. It's like no scientific thought by Thom whatsoever. But he's like, no, looking at it, and then eventually Matt decides to throw some into the fire, and to Thom almost losing his shit and wanting to start screaming at him, and then they realize there's horses like right on top of them about. And Matt gets up, and they say, okay, well, a well-dressed, sort of merchant, noble-looking woman, 2 men, and she's right off the bat nice and friendly. Oh, can't you just direct me to an inn? I'm looking for an inn. And they're really suspicious at that stage. But before Matt could move, he realizes one of the men that got off the horse lift up a crossbow that was already drawn. Arrow is notched into it, and he just decides to react, and he chucks one of the fireworks into the fire and dives the other way as this thing just explodes, and you see coals flinging, I can imagine, and he's onto the quarterstaff, and he realized the bolt of the arrow or the crossbow had already loosened and is sort of smacked into the tree right behind where his head was. And with that, he's like, okay, cool. Well, Matt's got his quarterstaff, so Matt's got a mat. And one swoop knocks a sword out of the hand, the next one cracks a skull. And of course, Thom, after being so scared of the fire going off, was already on high alert. So knives go flying. And next minute, sort of, Matt looks around and he sees the woman pointing at him. You, and I can't even remember what she said, sort of pointing, and he's like, "I mean, you just relax, you thief." It's like just almost disregarding and dismissing her. Like, I'm not going to wield my quarterstaff into your skull, but I'll decide what to do with you later. And he just sees a dagger flying through the air and straight into her neck, and blood starts running. And he catches her, like, out of disbelief that, Thom, you just killed a woman. And Tom's like, just to have a little closer
Not
look
the
there.
first.
That's dagger. And this is, and he kind of like starts whispering some song or hum of something ancient or some song that comes to memory to him. And he's just like, okay, wow, this is obviously a bit to digest for him, but it happened. And
She was holding a dagger or something under her cloak or something.
Yeah,
she was trying to get close.
And it's but by the sort of talk of the dagger, is she a grey man? Does grey man be, or she just straight up dark friend
Dark friend.
with a bad dagger, one of those hissing daggers?
Don't know if there was anything particular about the dagger. I think she was just an assassin, dark friend.
Sheriam mentions, like in that chapter where the Grey Man attacks in the White Tower, that very few women actually submit or like give themselves to become grey men or grey women. That it's not common for women to do it.
When Swan says that Sheriam found a grey man in her bed, it was a woman.
Well, that was the one who did it. There's no more left now. And also, they saw her. She spoke and walked right up, and they noticed her from the beginning. If she were grey,
It's not the modus operandi of, of a grey man.
So we'll disregard her as just a common dark friend or just a merchant thief. But either way, Thom ended her abruptly. And the guys then sort of say, well, it would be a terrible idea of us to hang around 4 dead corpses, one of them being as well dressed as this lady over here, considering that we're on the Caemlyn Road and there are guards that patrol this place. So let's get out of here. And that's when they decide to move on. And that's the end of that chapter.
Yeah. So again, like Rand, sitting by a campfire, some merchant woman with a bunch of retainers rocks up and he just murders them all. Again, the same strategy. I would think that they would change their strategy now. But this thing with Matt and his reluctance to hurt or harm or kill women in any way is a thing of his that later comes back to bite him in the ass.
Yeah. For the first time ever, I've tried to think about how I feel about that. Matt is blinded by this sort of, what would you call it, chivalrous side of his, like damsel in distress, like always running to the aid of women. Like he is treating women in a way that is almost like they need saving or protecting, which, as an older person now, I sort of look at differently than I did 10 years ago or, 20 years ago when I read the books originally. And it's something that I used to feel is sort of endearing, but now I feel like is almost just a bit blind. Like it's misguided. There's plenty of women. I mean, in the series, the people of most power and stuff are almost always women. Like all the matriarchs that are here, the power structures and stuff are often centered around women. The Empress, the Amelin seat, the queens, the Aes Sedai themselves, and so the story, I know, the Wheel of Time series has a lot of people talking about like how women are portrayed and how they are treated. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Matt treating women in that way or viewing women in that way. I feel like it's like a shortcoming of his, where in the past I probably used to think it was like a positive character trait that he had.
Yeah.
It's a blind spot.
I'm with you on that. I find it annoying that he thinks like that. I mean, if Thom wasn't there, he'd be dead because of that.
Yes.
That
Yes.
merchant would have stabbed him.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe his luck would have changed something along the
Yeah.
line.
I don't know. He still had the quarterstaff in his hands.
She would have
Yeah.
stabbed him in a purse full of gold coins, and the blade would have broken.
But no, I agree with you, Mo. There's a lot of that, especially now that we're in so many groups and channels and whatnot for Wheel of Time. It comes up a lot. The how women are
Yes.
portrayed
Hey,
in
look.
this series.
Perrin has got his wolf abilities and also his disabilities that he's afraid he can go completely mad. Rand is very much fighting complete and utter madness. And Perrin has got a soft spot for women. And he does. Matt has got a soft spot for women, and he doesn't want to murder them. So,
Yeah. He needs
as far as
flaws.
character traits go, this is not a bad one. I
no,
don't want
it's
to
not.
murder
I think
more
it's.
people.
I think it's really good, but as long as he just doesn't get murdered by a dark friend with a dagger.
But yes, it does leave him vulnerable.
Yeah.
It exposes him to unnecessary danger by just assuming that women are not as capable as men.
As does the madness for Rand.
What else? I like that when Moiraine says if Samael finds one of the Darkhounds dead, you will almost certainly assume it's a warder. So that's how, like...
And that means go looking
or a
for
guardian, yeah.
for the Aes Sedai. The one thing that stood out for me there is that, okay, learning more about the Darkhounds. So Samael has got his packs, if he has got more packs, but he can't ever send 10 to do his bidding out, or more than one pack, which is 10, because they'll turn on each other. So at least you get that reprieve. All right, that's the lot of them.
Well, now they're all dead, so you can send out the next 10. It won't be an issue. Not much of a reprieve. But yeah, no, like they have their weaknesses, they have their overlaps like that you can't send out to
You see that in the descriptions of like some of the creatures from the Sean-Chan as well, like certain creatures, the Thom and the Coral.
Yeah, they can't fight together.
They can't be in the same troops because some of them are compelled to attack the others. Fail says, "Are you sure it isn't the Wild Hunt Aes Sedai?" Sort of like talking about like it could be legend, and Moiraine responds with, "But it is." Moiraine replied, "It is." Just like a matter of fact, this is the Wild Hunt. That whole legend that you are now referring to in a sort of dismissive way, this is happening now. We are in it. This is the Wild Hunt.
Shitballs.
Yeah. And Darkhounds are as big as small ponies?
Or they're only running as small ponies. That's how I read it. That they looked like they ran.
But they're as big as small ponies
They're
and
that
as
big.
dark and flowing like shadows, silver teeth, drool dripping, silver eyes.
They are hectic.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. Oh, it's crazy. The other thing that was that popped up there was then Matt saying to Thom about, did you recognize that guy with a crossbow? It looks very much like the brigand that we chucked off that swam. Must be a good swimmer.
Yeah.
And it's like, you recognize that? And Matt's like, yeah, pretty certain. So we've got the same people still after us that was all the way back from there. And I think there's a little bit of insight to this going forward. Yeah. Which is good.
Yeah, they're not just common thieves. They've been hunting them from Tarvalon.
Yep.
Yeah, a couple of things as well here. One of them is who sent the Grey Men? Because I don't know if it's in this chapter or coming up now, there's a discrepancy. It's not, Samael didn't send both the Grey Men and the Darkhounds. He sent the Darkhounds. Someone else sent the Grey Men. Who?
I'm just assuming it's Ishmael. Because Ishmael's got the people and the Grey Men in Talaran Riyadh, talking to them about hunting the boy who was Matt at that point, but he's got people out there hunting Rand and Matt.
Yeah,
and
I think, if we go back all the way to the Dark Friend Social, there were hundreds of people in that room that we can call tens or to 100. And all of them got the same images, and all whose dark friend in nobility that was there have got their everything going after them.
Yeah.
So
okay.
at this point in time, there might be 10 different events from all different angles, but one thing is in common: is these 3 Taviran boys that they're after.
And as far as we
Right.
know, I think it's only Ishamal and Lanfear that know about the significance of Mat and Perrin. Because Ishamal hasn't shared that necessarily with anyone else.
No, he did in the Darkwind Social. There's all 3 of them.
Not with the other Forsaken, I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yes.
Samael wasn't there. Belal wasn't there. That was his little show. Ishmael's running his own little operation.
What happened when Perrin was viewing the 3 of them having a little go at each other in Tel Aran,
Riok.
Place of Dreams?
The place
They
of
blow
dreams
up
now.
in a big ball of fire. They have an argument, and then there's just a massive explosion as one of them channels like a massive explosion of fire.
Yeah. These guys are really unstable.
Yeah, they do not like each other at all. In fact, in my chapter later, Gabriel Ravin mentions it.
There's also in that chapter, it's not 9.5 dark hounds. Perrin actually does kill one with 3 arrows. It takes 3 arrows.
Oh, was it the same one that he hit with 3 arrows?
Yes.
No, well, they don't say the 3rd arrow struck. The first one he shot, and only when he loosed the 3rd arrow, right then Moraine said now, and she channeled Balefire. So I don't know if it landed.
I also read it as Perrin killing one of them, but it took multiple arrows. I don't know if it took 2 or 3, but I
Like the
thought
first
that he had
arrow,
killed one.
the dark hound just growled. Like it didn't even slow down or anything. But yeah, it took 3 arrows. But then they were so close that arrows would have been useless.
Yeah.
By the time that happened.
Yeah. Moraine says at one point that she hopes that they won't be hunted because her quote is, "We were an annoyance, I think." And her tone was calm, but it was clear she did not like being regarded so lightly.
Mm-hmm. But
Just an annoyance, eh, Samael?
Yeah.
You son of a bitch. I'll show you.
Well, Samael doesn't know her importance.
No.
If he had, blah.
And then I had a little chuckle right at the end when Matt asks Thom like if he could actually sleep after that attack, and Tom's response is, "With the sleep of an innocent babe."
Sure.
Not phased. Just murdered some folks. I could have a nice little sleep now.
Yeah, but if you wanna ride, I'll ride. So
Yeah.
Poor Matt is still under the impression that they're after him because of the letter. He's like, "What's in this bloody letter?" And Tom's like, "No, man.
There's nothing in
There's
there."
no game of houses. There's no code in this. I've played this for long enough. It's like, if you play Catan, I can see your strategy. You ain't going to get the longest road, and that's not the case.
I never do.
All right, so let's take the longest road all the way to Caemlyn.
Ooh.
Jody, why don't you take us through chapter 45, entitled simply Caemlyn?
Caemlyn, as it's pronounced
That's
by the
the one.
locals. Yes. So, yeah. Thom decided that in the previous chapter, look, he told Matt, if you want to ride, we ride. So they ride the whole night through. And they approach Caemlyn in the early hours of the morning after spending, I've got written here, they arrive in the early hours after riding all night, their hands wet on the wheel. Matt remembers.
I like that Thom is sort of deferring to Matt already. Like, if you want to ride, we can ride. You make the call.
Yeah. He is going to have to look after him as well. He's going to have to stay by in case there's more women that try to kill them. Someone has to deal with them.
When Matt deals with that woman in the previous chapter, he gets up grinning. Like he's sort of like he's ready to start laying on the charm when
yes.
Thom has to
kind
like
of pretty.
look after him. Yeah.
She's got pretty eyes.
Fucking Matt. So yeah, Matt remembers that he visited the city with Rand, but like nothing is familiar. That was on the back of the apple cart with Bunt. What was his name?
Elman Bunt.
Bunt. But he was in a bad way by that point. Really passed out and super grumpy. So he doesn't remember much. Like he'll walk around the city. Like when he's in the city, he'll remember a specific fountain or a sign, but nothing around it. So his memories are super patchy. But the city is pumping. Lots of merchants, lots of trade happening. People screaming and shouting, and there's noise and animals. And The guards don't give them a second glance, even with his quarterstaff over the pommel of his saddle. And they enter the city through the big arched gates, unmolested. Thom suggests that they find the Queen's blessing. Matt remembers that. And get some sleep, because they've been riding all night, obviously. But Matt is just wants to get rid of this letter ASAP. Like, dude, Thom, you go and lie down, old man. I am heading straight to the palace to get my hands off this thing. I'm just tired of people trying to kill me all the time. It would be great. So Thom old heads for Basil Gill's spot, and Matt heads for the palace. So Matt makes his way to the palace rather easily. All the roads in Caemlyn spiral up to it. So the palace is built on top of the hill, and all the roads go in a long circular spiral all the way up and up and up. So it's hard to get lost. And he approaches the guards and calls over to the officer in charge to give him the news. Now he's thinking to himself, I better give some flowery speech and get myself in front of the Queen so I can deliver this letter. So he starts off by telling them that he has come from Tar Valon. But before he can even finish that sentence, the officer laughs at him and then, cuts off and gets all serious and tells him he wants nothing to do with anyone from the tower, even if he was from the tower. Like, farmers don't. Tar Valon doesn't send farmers to deliver messages. And they stole the daughter heir, and until the daughter heir is returned, they want nothing to do with the tower. So things have soured in Caemlyn towards the sisters. And Matt finds himself in a whole heap of trouble there with these guards. So apparently Morghese has turned her back on the White Tower completely, and the whole city is aware of it, and the whole city feels the same way. The officer threatens Matt, and of course then Matt insults him in response. There's a little bit of fleeing for one's life, and as Matt gallops away and heads back to the Queen's blessing, failed mission that did not go as planned. But he does remember something along the way, that there is another way to get into the Queen's palace and perhaps have a chat with daughter heirs and princes and the queens themselves. Yeah. Just requires, blitzing them off walls, for example.
Don't blitz them off the wall.
Yeah.
He almost does.
This is the way. So when he gets to the stables of the Queen's blessing, he remembers another thing, the stable hand's name, Raimi. Raimi, of course, doesn't remember him until a little silver coin comes floating into his hand. Then, of course, yes, he does remember him and runs away with the horses. He also recognizes who I assume to be Lamgwin, because he's not named, but he is sitting at the back door stroking a cat. It's got to be Lamgwin.
Yeah, lidded eyes.
Yeah, he remembers him, but he doesn't remember his name, and they don't say anything to each other. I think it's just like one of these total like man moments, We look at each other, we don't have to say anything or do anything.
No.
Just this.
I know who you are, you know what I am.
That's I'm coming inside. The end. So he goes in through the back way. Obviously, he's at the back of the inn now. He's gone to the stables, through the back door, and he's into the kitchens. And he remembers the cook, Colleen, I want to say, who's just known as Cook. That'll solve everyone's no pronunciation issues there. Cook. And she remembers him as Rand's servant. He's like, God damn it. Still, like, after almost, how long has it been? Not a year, but close to a year since he's been there last time.
Oh, Joe, you're giving me a callback itch.
I can see he's scratching that itch. He asks about, where's Basil and Thom? And she's like, all right, they're in the library. So he heads for the library. This is a room he doesn't remember, because when he walks in, he's flabbergasted by the amount of books. And I do recall him being in that room when they were making the plan to head to the Eye of the World. But he
comes down from his room and they meet in there, I think.
Yeah.
Like after Moraine's healed him some and he's like better.
But
he was sick, man.
He doesn't remember it.
Just let you know how sick he was. But then again, also the healing pulled the memories out of him. That's tainted to that.
The healing at the tower.
Yeah. So anyway, this is one of the other things he doesn't remember, but he does notice a book by the table, The Travels of Jane Farstrider. This comes up a lot. That's all they ever talk about. It's like the only book that the three boys want to read.
Not what the Harry
Rand
Potter
sat and read that there.
Yeah.
Rand sat and read the very same book there.
Rand also read it with his dad.
Yeah, like in Emond's Field, they've all read it, except for Matt, who never gets around to reading books. He's too busy easing badges into places. So
It's funny because Matt later meets Jane Fastrader.
Yeah,
They
I
travel
guess what I'm
together.
going to say. Like, this mention of Jane Fastrader is so much that like it's kind of building up. Like he's coming. Remember this name. Remember this person.
Yes.
Yeah, they like not only meets them, like travel around, like they're best buddies. Like him and Olver, the three of them are inseparable.
Yeah.
So Thom and Basil are playing stones. Basil's under the false impression that he might actually win a game. Matt just takes one look at the board and goes, "Well, like in 4 moves, you're done, buddy."
Yeah.
Just your confidence is misplaced.
They've never spoken about Matt playing stones or having any interest in it, but he looks at the board and he can see 3 moves ahead and what's going to happen.
Yeah,
that's his tactical brain.
I think it's like the Randland chess, the tactical
Yes.
army kind of style of doing things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of like tells them what happened. They were surprised to see that he's back so early. And then we get confirmation from Basil as well that the whole city has turned against the Aes Sedai. And that Morghese is not herself. And she even has a new advisor, a Lord Gabriel, who as well also just recently showed up in the city and wormed his way up to the top very, very quickly. And he's now the new advisor and has actually helped several people from beheadings. Like basically they attribute to Morghese's madness being kind of tempered by him, when in fact we know that he is the cause of it. But he's pretending like he is, calming her down and making sure she doesn't behead random people for no reason. He's also replaced half of the guards with his own men, or men that are loyal to him. And he's going by the name... that was like Lord Brend as well, also replacing people new to the city, a lot of influence. And Gareth Bryan hates him. Immediately did not like this guy at all. So he was unceremoniously whisked off to retirement in the countryside, where he is at this very moment. But then, as we all know, later on, comes back. So there's also rumors around that this Lord Gabriel is more than just an advisor, that he is in love with Morghese and she with him, and that they might actually marry at some point. Matt tells them, like, look, I'm going back. I remember another way to get in there, which makes Thom realize, because Thom was also aware of Rand's little foray into the gardens. So he was like, oh, no, don't tell me you're doing that. You need the Dark One's own luck. And he's like, funny you should mention that.
Got
I got that right here. No worries whatsoever. So he's just going to go through there and just avoid the guards altogether, because Basil's telling him, like, look, if you'd said that to the guards, like, you're from the White Tower, that's a bad idea. So he's like, well, look, next time I'll just avoid them altogether. Just jump over the wall and everything will be fine. So Matt grabs the dice cup at that point and he tosses the dice just to show his luck, and it lands on 5 pips, the Dark One's eyes. Now, the last time this happened on the ship is when they got attacked by those Dark Friends, who can apparently swim very well. But this is the end of the chapter, or nearing it, so I'll leave it for you guys to discuss later on. But an ominous throw, to say the least. So before leaving, he tosses Basil a gold crown as well, and basically just orders him. He's like, innkeeper, take my stuff up to my room. Very arrogant, and the old... Yeah, and
I'm not the servant boy now anymore.
Yeah. He tosses a gold coin at him as well, like a golden crown. And Basil's like, holy crap, where does this kid get gold from? And Matt thinks to himself, because I always win, as he walks out the door. And the chapter, he's so arrogant. And then the chapter ends round about there.
Fantastic.
Good old Matt.
You have anything there, Vil?
No, that was pretty straightforward. The only thing that I would add in, I think that based on the level of authority that the Queen has, and they've got these guards, the Queen's guards in shining armor, they're well dressed up, and they're not a bunch of wool-headed louts forming a band in the bushes. That they'd have a better man at the gates to decipher the messages that come into the Queen, and just ask some prudent questions, not just, yeah, right, you so and so.
But remember, this guy is new to this. He's been placed in there. He's not been a soldier for long. Matt comments on that, the fact that he looks older than what the rank he's carrying. At his age, he should have gained more rank by now.
Okay.
He's immediately, like, again, signposted as a reprehensible douchebag, right? Like, he's got beady eyes like a rat. He's gruff. He talks to
overweight.
Matt about... He's overweight. He says to Matt, I'll have you beaten to within an inch of your life. That's not what you associate with Caemlyn or Andorran guards, the Queen's Guard, that sort of stuff. He's one of the men that Gabriel put in there.
Yeah.
And he's not put in there because he's an effective gatekeeper. He's put in there because he is loyal to a Forsaken.
Yeah.
Right? So he's a
Bad
dirty
gatekeeper.
cop. Yeah. He's a bad actor. So I'm not surprised by his inability to hold a conversation with someone petitioning to deliver a letter from the daughter Anne. That doesn't surprise me at all. Caemlyn is very much painted as like the shining city of all of Randland, right? It's in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
It's they're talking about like the streets, I think, like pumping wealth or something like
Yes.
that. The inns look like they're owned by wealthy merchants. It's got high walls. It's beautiful. It's the seat of the golden-haired queen. This is Camelot. In the
Yeah.
middle of Randland.
Just a silly place.
Oh, that's two Monty Python references in one episode.
Second thoughts, let's not go to Caemlyn. It's a silly place.
I think it's my favorite capital city.
Well, except Tar-Valon, if it weren't so filled with Aes Sedai, treacherous black Aja members. The second best city.
How do you, if you need to compare it to a city around the world in terms of standing out? Because I've got my own little vision of it. Just want to know if it,
architecture or
architecture,
Well, it's like standing.
it's like visual
Like Paris.
culture.
Yeah. Some place that everybody, like a romantic...
Paris is a good one because they explain as you come in the main gate, there's the main road that's divided by like a patch with trees and grass and stuff.
The
There's like a
Champs-Élysées.
long- Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What's yours, Vil?
It's a little bit sort of, almost want to say Spanish, terracotta colors,
Interesting.
walls, stone, like not there's like marble and glinty, not
Delicate
Caranian, Carani, Cape Town,
Cairo.
Kyrenian, like lordly and like keep the dirt on the outskirts. It's more sort of a simulated city that almost like a King's Landing in a way, but without like bastard
Is that
king.
the real world city you would equate it to?
Oh. No, all right. Something on the Mediterranean. Something, but not
Yeah, even though it's
seaside.
landlocked, but yeah, I get that, what you're saying. Yeah, perhaps. Like a Barcelona.
Ah.
Hmm.
Ah.
Hmm.
That
There
works.
we go. I just blew Villy's mind.
Matt says he's not as lucky at cards as he is at dice, which makes sense because with cards there is an element of skill, even if there is still a lot of luck. But dice is pure luck,
Yeah.
which I thought was a cool touch. What else?
That's about it.
This is basically Matt running up to the front door and getting bounced right out.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right,
Plan
so now
B.
let's get to plan B.
Yeah.
All right, so chapter 46 is called A Message Out of the Shadow. So Matt heads back to the palace, avoiding the plaza this time with the soldiers that chased him off before. He finds the same slope and wall that Rand found when he was trying to find a spot to watch Logain from. And when he's climbing up he climbs up the slope, not caring about the flowers and stuff that he's destroying. And then he finds easy toe holds and stuff just like Rand did, climbing up the wall. And while he's climbing, he thinks back to the time that he, Rand, and Perrin went climbing in the sandhills. That's the exact same time Rand had the same memory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Rand has a memory of the three of them going climbing in the sandhills as well. But Matt he goes into a bit more detail in that memory. He remembers that they were out there for days, the three of them.
Yeah.
Which, Rand didn't think of, so I didn't know that. And I was like, oh, wow, you probably got in a lot of trouble. Yes, they did get in a lot of trouble for being away from home for a number of days by themselves in the wild. But they loved it, catching and killing rabbits and fishing and climbing hills and scavenging around. And Matt finds a carving, a stone carving that he is convinced looks like a man's ear. But Rand and Perrin just laughed at him. And then when they went back home, Tam said, well, maybe it could be. And obviously, me, Manetherin fanboy number one. It's like, oh, yes, that's a remnant from Manetherin, surely.
Didn't he find a fossil as well of a fish in a stone?
Yeah, fish.
Fossilized
fish,
Yes,
fish.
fish in a stone, yeah.
As if a fish was made an imprint in the stone. Not quite knowing what a fossil is, but...
Yes, no, he does not. Matt is not a learned man.
He hasn't even read the Journeys of Jane Fastrader, like, for God's sake, man.
Yeah, has he read anything?
No, nothing.
Except for Elaine's letter meant for her mom.
Yeah.
While he's sort of daydreaming about their trip to the Sandhills, he almost falls because his mind is wandering and he sort of chastises himself. But he makes it up and over the wall into the palace gardens. I'm not going to go into detail here, but Matt is sort of skulking around. He's I almost feel like he's singing like ding 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 to himself as he's having so much fun. He's saying, he picks a flower, he puts it in his hair, he's dodging guards. While he's moving around, he says that this was as much fun as stealing apple cakes on Sunday, and easier. He's so cocky, talking about breaking into the palace in Caemlyn as being easier than stealing apple cakes on a Sunday.
Hey man, good wives look after their baking.
They do, more so than the palace guards after their royalty.
I mean, this is true because, I mean, he easily finds that slope and that wall again, just like Rand did, and they've done nothing to secure it. Like, it's exactly the same.
They acknowledge as much.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course it's easy.
So anyway, he's missioning around, and as he's sort of getting up closer to the palace, he eventually gets right up against the wall, but there's guards approaching again, so he's sort of hiding behind a plant or something, and he's near an open window through which he can hear a conversation, which is pretty careless on the part of Ravin, like just having this super incriminating conversation out, near an open window where guards are walking around close enough to sort of step on Matt, like the guards could hear what he's saying, but maybe he's just that confident. So he overhears this conversation. It's between two men, one sort of subservient and calling the other great master, and the other a much stronger voice, obviously used to command. And the gist of the conversation is that the subservient man is reporting that our girls, Elayne, Egwene, and Nynaeve, are traveling to Tyr. And we, of course, we already know at this point that the Great Master is Ravin, posing as Lord Gabriel. And he asks this other man about Rand, even saying he's the one that can destroy us all. But the guy has no news on Rand. Komar, I think his name is. Ravin also at this point laments the haste of someone else to grab Calandor. He's too impatient. Guessing this is Belal.
I'm torn between Belal and Ishamael, both wanting that sword. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's written somewhere in some wiki or something.
I mean, we'll have a definitive answer in the next 2 episodes.
Yeah,
I'm sure. But I just feel like Ishamael's focus has not been Calandor. Like he's never spoken to Rand about it. He's never brought it up. He's been around. He's been freed before. Like he's never been fixated on it. Belal has been. I'm sure I've read somewhere that he has been obsessed with Calandor, and he has set up shop in Tyr where Calandor is. I feel like this specific reference is to Belal. Ravin actually references Belal again.
Yeah. I think Ishamael sees Rand as the tool and the weapon, and he will yield Calandor. And if he can control Rand, he therefore has control of Calandor. More sort of his thinking, where it's not the
he's
case.
Thinking a bigger game. Which is funny because Belal is supposed to be this master tactician.
Yeah, but he's like consumed by the power of the sword, the crystal sword. It's driving him to bad decision making.
It seems like that in all the additional reading and stuff that I've done, just poking around the web. So Ravin is worried that if this is in fact Belal, that he will capture the girls and then try to use them to his own ends and his own plots, and that would actually strain Ravin's own plans. So Ravin instructs the other man, Komar, to kill Elayne, but quietly, so that the tower will struggle to produce her for Morghese if Elayne has been, if she's been dealt with, And Morghese keeps going to the tower saying, "Where's my daughter?" They are not going to be able to produce her because she will be dead. Further widening the schism between the tower and Caemlyn or Andor. So at this point, Matt can't look through the window because he's busy hiding from approaching soldiers. So he would be spotted by them. So he can't look to see who it is that is doing this talking. And so while he's still hidden and the soldiers are approaching, Comar says that they actually lost track of the girls after they left the ship near Arengil, because they've tracked the ship there. And in Arengil, when they investigated the ship, the girls had already gotten off it. Comar then asks if Ravin himself could help step in because they don't know where the girls are, but Ravin just shuts that down straight away, saying that he can't make any moves in or near Tyr. He doesn't want to fight Belal, not yet. You know, like he's already he's saying here, like he knows he's going to fight one of the other Forsaken, whether it's Belal or Ishmael, it doesn't actually matter because the fact that Ravin is talking about like, I'm not ready to fight him yet is like, oh shit. Okay. And I think in terms of power levels, I think Ravin and Ishmael are at the very tippy top of the pyramid of power. So Ravin just ends the conversation with, bring me all three their heads or you'll beg me to take yours. And at that moment, the soldiers pass Matt and he can sort of peek through the window. So he does. And he sees a tall man with wide shoulders with a hard look, one used to giving orders. But that man speaks and it's Comar. It's like this subservient man is the large man. And at that moment, the soldiers... Oh, no, wait, sorry. But Matt couldn't see who this great master person in this conversation was. So after the guards have passed, Matt emerges from his hiding spot and then sort of just holds Elayne's letter out in front of him, sort of almost like a shield, so that whoever had to encounter him now would see it. He feels like he's inside the tower, you know, deep enough now so that, or sorry, in the palace, that he can't just like walk down a hallway, but he can walk around in the gardens and maybe find someone and use this letter to say, oh, I've come all this way, I've gotten sort of turned around. Can you show me to where I can deliver this letter? And as he's walking around, he's about to decide like whether to go in through a door or not. A young soldier steps out through a door, and it's Talanvor. Talanvor.
I'm a Talanvor man myself.
Talanvor.
Who?
Talanvor wields Calandor.
Yes. Who immediately sort of half draws his sword, but Matt immediately states his purpose, you know, waving the letter around. But Talanvor is suspicious not only of Matt, but he's sort of, when Matt mentions the daughter heir, is looking around to see if anyone else heard what Matt actually said, because as we know, he is loyal to the queen and he knows that something is afoot, and he's sort of like trying to see if any other bad actors like Old Mate from the front gate is around. I think that guy's name was Elber, and Talanvor says that the guy at the gate would not have just let someone in to just wander around unescorted. But Matt then says, oh, you're talking about a fat man with eyes like a rat. And Talanvor nods and he almost smiles. So Matt knows, okay, yeah, cool. He thinks the same as I do. But Matt tells him that he climbed the wall, and he just straight up says, I ran into this guy, I couldn't get past him, so I climbed the wall and I'm walking around the gardens. That's normal, right? That's acceptable behavior. Correct. And Talanvor says, that bloody wall again.
Yeah.
Referencing specifically Rand, who had used the same wall to get in. So Talanvor sheathes his sword and he says, give me the letter and I will go give it to Morghese myself. But Matt says, look, I made a promise to Elayne and I intend to keep it. I said to her that I will deliver it by hand myself. And Talanvor seems to sort of agree. But before Matt even knows what's happening, Talanvor has his sword out and at Matt's neck, like super, super fast. And he says that he'll take him to the queen, but if he even thinks of anything, he'll kill him in a blink. You know, so he is also no slouch with the sword.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what role he and his fighting prowess play later in the story. I can only imagine that they're involved in some fighting when they free Fail and Morghese and those guys from the Shido. I'm sure Talanvor is there kicking ass and taking names again.
Mm-hmm.
He sort of says, okay, cool, fine, I will lead you there. And Matt sort of, just to sort of ease him, proclaims his loyalty to the queen and to Andor, stating that if I'd been here in the winter, you know, I would have followed Lord Gabriel, which he thought would have been the right thing to say, because the sentiment is that Lord Gabriel was there fighting for the queen and he restored order to the city while the queen was away. But Talanvor just gives him a tight-mouthed stare. So I don't think that Matt picks up on the fact that Talonvor is not a fan, but we know, obviously, this man in love with the Queen is not a fan of the Forsaken using compulsion on the love of his life.
Yeah.
So they walk in this sort of like awkward way where Talonvor is leading the way, but he also has to look back with his hand on his sword to make sure Matt doesn't try anything. But they eventually find the courtyard where Morghese and a bunch of other nobles are sort of lounging around outside, where Morghese is sitting at the edge of a pond and just trailing her fingers in the water, with a tall, dark man standing beside her. Obviously, Matt just checks her out and decides he'd dance a jig with her and steal a kiss in the moonlight too, no matter how old she is.
Yeah. Yes, Matt.
This is one of Tom's ex-girlfriends, and like she's been described as beautiful before, but we know that she is getting on in age. But Matt, he doesn't care. He's not ageist. So Talonvor introduces Matt and sort of explains that he's come to deliver this letter. And Morghese just asks for the letter. Talonvor hands it over to her. And as she's reading it, she's sort of vacillating between like just joy and relief to hear from Elayne, and then also just anger at like her behavior and like saying that she's going to strip her hide or whatever it is. When Matt tries to say something he tries to like chime in and say, oh, by the way, I overheard this conversation, blah, blah, blah. He is interrupted by Gabriel. And this is like just Matt's luck.
So much luck.
The Dark One's own. Gabriel interrupts him, and at this point we get a bit more of a physical description of him. He has more than Rand's height. He's taller than Rand and almost Perrin's shoulders. So he's huge. He's a huge dude. But I like the fact that despite the fact that he was taller than Rand, he still does not have shoulders as wide as Perrin. And, just Perrin is the beefiest boy back off Ravine. But after Gabriel has interrupted Matt, he sort of plucks the letter out of Morghese's hand, which is, just shows how he's just overstepping the mark completely. And Morghese's anger starts building up, but Gabriel puts a hand on her shoulder, and her anger just seems to melt away. And this is clearly him channeling at her. I think they mention later in the books that he sort of had to repeatedly use compulsion on her because she was so strong-willed. Like he was surprised by how resistant she was to it. So he's continuously having to like manage her mood. I mean, we also know at this point from Thom and from various other people that Morghese is prone to like a temper and, like being very strong-willed. But at this point, Gabriel throws shade at the Amerlin for sending Elayne away, and Matt is just thinking to himself, I can't believe how lucky I am for not blurting out that murder plot that this man has obviously been plotting. And then, okay, so Gabriel is this great master. Gabriel asks Matt what he knows, and Matt sort of plays dumb. He introduces himself as Thom Grinwell.
Thinking on your feet there.
Yeah, from a town called Comfrey, north of Baelon. And at this point, Morghese sort of like shoots a glance at him. She reacts to that. And I've not been able to find the exact reason why that is, but people have theories. Go figure. One of them is that Comfrey is north of Baelon, and that's the area that Lord Gabriel supposedly is from. But he doesn't seem to react to it. But it happens too quickly. Like Morghese looks at Matt immediately after he says that. She doesn't like sort of wait for Gabriel to say anything and then react. She's immediately reacted. So maybe she's reacted to the name. But I mean, Thom is also such a common name. Like, would she give a reaction to that? I don't know.
No.
I don't know. It's weird, but it's noteworthy that Matt thinks that she sort of gave him a bit of a look there. So anyway, Gabriel considers putting Matt to the question, but Morghese puts a stop to that. She just says, look, that's happened too much. This is very much what she did for Rand as well. When Elida wanted to incarcerate Rand and question him and stuff, Morghese also came to his rescue and said, no, don't worry. It's okay. Leave him be. So this has happened again now, which is great for Matt. Morghese says that if Matt ever sees Elayne again, to tell her that she often thinks of her quiet talks with Sheriam in her office. Which is also a weird thing to say, right? Now, On the surface level, trips to Sheriam's office are
Trouble.
not known for the quiet talks. And also, I only figured this out because of reading about this. Chronologically, that doesn't make sense. Sheriam was not the mistress of novices when Morghese was at the tower. That is an anachronism. That simply was not the case. It could not have happened. So people think this is Morghese specifically giving incorrect information to Matt to relate to Elayne to let her know something is wrong with her mom.
Cry for help in code.
Yes, like her subconscious is fighting this compulsion in this whole situation, which is, you would never know that. Reading this book for the first time, you would just read straight over that and keep going. And here we are like, cool. Okay, cool. How genius. Like, wow, go Morghese. Like, just building her up even more. Just building the case for us to go out and evangelize rereads, right? Like, I mean, there is so much to pick up on here. Anyway, Matt decides, he declines, and he says, like, he's never going to go back to the tower again. He's going to go back to Comfrey, to the farm. He has to do the milking because his sisters are going to have to do it while he's not there, and blah, blah, blah. And Gabriel just laughs at him, and he throws him a pouch of coins. And he tells him to go see the world first before he does that. And he sort of just immediately forgets that Matt exists. And Matt sort of thanks him, and as he's leaving, he hears Gabriel already saying to Morghese that she should start making a move on the Sun Throne in Caerhun because of her previous marriage. She has claim to the throne. He's like, yeah, maybe I can even assist you with that. And he sort of leads her away, and Matt sees Morghese just sort of nodding along. And that's how Matt escapes the clutches of one of the or possibly the most powerful Forsaken. The end.
Yeah, these guys in Caemlyn, Rand, Matt, they just end up in palaces. They're not even trying, really. Like, it's not even slightly difficult. And then they're hanging out with queens and Forsaken.
Yeah.
Regular Sunday afternoon tea.
Yeah, it's so great. Matt's just like
man.
his whole vibe in this thing. Like he is just almost literally waltzed into the tower.
Into the palace.
Putting a flower in his hair. Into the palace. I keep saying the tower.
Yeah.
The palace. Tower time is still hard in the subconscious. But if there's nothing else, let's bring this puppy home.
Yeah.
Chapter 47. To race the shadow.
To race the shadow, indeed.
On your marks, get set, go, Billy.
Race. No, okay. So Matt is now still playing as Thom Grinwell, and he's being escorted by Talanvo out of the palace, and he's got the same amount of question on his face that Matt's got on his face. Matt's trying to puzzle out whether he's a Queen's man or a Gabriel's man, and sort of poses the questions out there, but eventually gets the landlord to sort of say, like, no, he's a Queen's man through and through. And Matt's also like, yeah, I bet that's what Gabriel would say as well. Just before that exchange, he obviously leads him out via a side gate to the front, and there is the dim-witted, beady-eyed rat man, and Delanville just so nicely makes it real slow. So you see this man here? He had a letter from Elayne, and you barred him, but just to let you know, everyone's aware of it now. So sort of pulling a little bit of rank on him and saying, like, you're in deep shit now, because even old Gabriel was pissed off about, obviously, Elayne's welfare. But Matt then takes his leave from there, and he's like, okay, well, good riddance. And he's also happy with some more information, and beelines back for the inn where Thom and Master Gil is still sitting and playing stones, except it's a new game, and the result is pretty much the same. Gil pushing his luck. And Matt starts ranting off about, now he thinks that this guy, what's his history? Where is he from? Like, already strategizing. He needs to know more. And he's like, oh, well, not much is known about him. He's from somewhere in Andor, and he's come here and very quickly made his way to Elida's seat. And he's like, and then no one thinks that's weird, like,
Mhm.
because maybe he's trying to steal the throne. And Thom and Gil burst out laughing. Well, he can't. He's a man. It's a monarchy. It's simple as that. And it's like, yeah, but what about the plot to murder Elayne? And he tells them about what he heard. And Thom sort of looks at him and is like, okay, cool. Well, this probably means that we're going, aren't we? And it's like, no, yeah, he intends to go. And are you coming with? Thom's like, well, lead the way. But just before then, they're like, okay, well, how do they get this information to Morghese that, there's this plot? And he's like, no, don't worry, leave it to me. I know how to spread rumors in the city. I've got the right people.
Basil is.
Yeah, Basil, he's got the right people. He'll get it done. He's got a good little assistant there in the inn that he spread a rumor to. She overheard his dream, and it was pinpointed to the guy on the other side of the city. So, but just warning him that this is serious, risky business, Basil. Don't get yourself mixed in this. And it's like, nah, all good. And before they're parting, Matt grabs the whole purse that he was paid by
Gabriel.
He threw him a purse, and Matt didn't have to open the purse. He kind of sort of weighed it by feel. It's like should be 10 gold crowns in there.
I took the same note.
Yeah, so it's like, and he chucks it to Basil and says, well, you just hold on to that for me. And he's like, what's this for? He's like, no, I've got a wager. And but Gabriel doesn't know it yet. And that's chapter 47 done. Just a little quick one.
So I was going to ask you guys, what is the wager?
I don't know.
A race.
Is
A race to see who can get to the girls first.
Yeah, probably that he'll interrupt their plans to save them.
I don't know if Matt's doing it on purpose, but what's happening is he's turning it into a bet, introducing an element of gambling and chance, which inherently increases Matt's chances of succeeding.
Whenever he puts money on something, he wins. Now he's putting money on himself.
Yeah.
Clever man.
For sure.
Maybe.
Well,
I like to think that.
Yeah, what did you guys unpack out of that? There's really not anything below the surface.
Well, I like that Matt doesn't even question it. He's like, all right, now I have to go save the girls.
Yeah, that's my next. I'm done with this. There's no sightseeing. Yeah, I've got coins.
He's not like, oh, should I do this? Is this too dangerous? But it's just like it's a foregone conclusion. Oh, there's a plot to kill them. We'll see about that. I'm going, which is great. It's somewhat tinged by what we spoke about before about him thinking that he needs to come to the rescue.
Yeah.
But I like that there was no question in his mind that he had to at least help them or warn them.
And he knows exactly where they're going. He's going there. That's it.
And he's loyal. He's loyal to them.
Also, going on the remark that if you're ever in trouble, just call for me or send for me. And they're like, well, whenever we need you, we can't call. We need you then. Going back to that. And he's like, okay, well, they don't know. They'll need me. And I intend to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Good old Matt.
God, I love him. What about you, Joe? I mean, yeah, like Will said, not a lot there. But now that's basically like that's the starter gun going off, right? Like, okay, here we go. This is the final sprint now to the end of this book.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got Rand, unknown how he's getting, but he's making his way ahead of
to Tyr.
Yeah, to Tyr, but on foot or on a horse, outrunning everything and anything that's on him, including dark hounds. There you've got Moraine, Lan, Perrin, Ogier, Loyal, and Fael also now on a boat. They mean to sail on the first boat to Tyr as well, or not?
They're on horses running away from Darkhounds. On the way to Illian, they thought they would get a boat from
Yes.
Illian,
Okay, yeah, that's right.
No boats.
No boat. But yeah, everyone's on their way to Tyr.
So now Matt and Thom as well. The girls also, because of the Black Arger, not knowing anything about Rand. They're just going because the Black Arger's there. And the Aiel.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, and the Aiel.
Because, well, at least Gaul. And we can assume Avienda and Rourke and those guys as well, because when Nynaeve talked to Avienda in their interactions, they mentioned the Heart of the Stone or something like that. And they mentioned that they were going to Tyr. So there are factions of the Aiel heading to Tyr. All of our friends are heading to Tyr. Shit's going to go down there.
Indeed, shit is going to go down soon.
Okay, well, with all the pieces on the board set up, ready for a grand finale, have you guys picked your favorite moments from the stretch? Jody, you're nodding.
I am
Excellent.
nodding. Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right, well, why don't we start with you then, Joe? What was your favorite moment?
When they get attacked by the 6 grey men, and Beefy Boy rips a chair apart with his bare hands as if it's made out of spaghetti.
That's one of my honorable mentions.
And goes about smashing heads with yay club.
Yeah.
And also like Fael's little comment afterwards, like, "Well, you are beefy if you can rip that chair. I saw how you just like it was nothing."
Because he didn't smash it against something.
No,
he just took it in his hands and he just ripped it into pieces. Jeez. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that as well.
That's mine.
How about you, Phil?
I've gone for the more emotional little side stint of the boys in their childhood and Matt reminiscing about them going into the sandhills, and they went camping and climbing at the same time.
And hunting.
And they got into quite a bit of trouble for doing that, because for a couple of days they were living off rabbits and finding fossils and sleeping on the edges of cliffs. Like, they really went climbing. They went into the mountains.
It's a little bit reminiscent of some of our sketchier camping trips to Oblivion's Cliff.
Yes, that's
a good camping trip with the boys. You can't beat it.
Yeah, you can't. Catching, killing, eating, just havoc.
Oh, the killing.
Part of that is also just like again, that was just in pure defiance that they can show them the mountains is not a scary place, like hard-headedness, because they probably wanted to venture further from Eamon's Field, do more things, and then the Aldo, it's like, no, the mountains is a scary place or whatever, like mountains. And it made me think, to tie in with that favorite moment, because the fossil comes up and the stone that he thought looked like an ear. Them being Taveran would, towards them getting closer to that age where it starts like happening, would they not find things that would be significant, perhaps?
You're assuming there is something of significance there.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you look for tidbits anywhere. Maybe that ear was part of some old sangreal or something.
Jesus.
That's a stretch.
Hey,
that's a stretch. It's part of an old statue, I think, for sure. But that's as much as they found.
Something almost like the Kudenkaal, or something bigger.
Something bigger.
I mean, it was Manetheren.
That rash. Yeah.
Anyway, I just I love the throwback of that. Still tying the boys together, just as boys doing what boys do.
As you've heard me say on previous episodes, I find myself questioning like how tight their friendship really was, like in moments where they seem ready to abandon Rand because he's channeling and that sort of stuff. And it's always nice to hear these stories about, no, the three of them really were very, very fast friends. And like, you wouldn't go on a trip like that with people that annoy you or that you didn't want to spend time with. And it sounded like they had the time of their lives, you know, like fishing and fending for themselves and stuff. It was worth the trouble. Like, he remembers it fondly. I also like the fact that none of us chose things like balefire to kill darkhounds, or like
there was that
things, because my favorite moment is also a seemingly innocuous one, And it is when Fail mounts the horse using only one hand on the pommel. And she goes, I think I've been on a horse once, Stoneface.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like even uses the opportunity to have another dig at Lan, just knowing who she is and, you know, expecting or visualizing the scene at least of them sort of seeing like, oh shit, okay, this woman actually knows what she's about, and then also knowing her history and like how adept she would be at riding. I mean, Davram Bashir trains all of the cavalry for Rand's armies because he is A, one of the great captains, and B, one of the great captains from a land where, you know, horse riding is second nature to everybody. Yeah, it just lends a little bit more weight to Fail's presence in the story, which is cool. Makes her a little bit radder.
Yeah. There's a point when they get into the city, into Illian, and they climb up on the horses, and there's no horse for her because they only get that later on. And Perrin just he reaches down with one hand and grabs her and throws her onto the back of the horse. And she and then he kicks the spurs and they gallop off, and she has to wrap her arms around him, and he hears her giggling and laughing behind.
Yeah, she's laughing in the background.
Yeah, like she's comfortable and happy on horses.
She sure is.
Especially when she's got her arms around old beefy boy.
Maybe that's hands full of beef.
It seems something weird for you to say while you're wearing a shirt that says beefy boy.
Beefy boy for the win.
I had another honorable mention, which was just Matt waltzing into the palace. Like that whole scene with him with a flower in his hair, dodging, and like just thinking how easy it is, easier than stealing apple cakes on a Sunday, you know? Like,
that's
this
right.
is nothing.
You don't even have to explain it. You can say honorable mention, just Matt. That's
just
it.
Matt. Just everything about it.
Everybody gets it. Yeah, honorable mention, just Matt.
All right, so listeners, send in your favorite moments and corrections, answers to our questions and pontifications, or just anything interesting or entertaining, and chances are good we'll read it out on the show. Please do join the conversation. I say that every time, but I really do encourage people who are listening to the show to interact with us, because we want this to be a two-way street and not just us talking and frustrating people. If you feel frustrated with what we're saying, or you're entertained or delighted, then let us know either way and we'll give you a mention on the show. You can do that by sending them into our Twitter handle at Blood and Ash Pod, or any of the social media links in our episode description. And tell your friends to do the same thing. The more the merrier. The more voices we have in this conversation, the more fun it'll be, because that's all we're looking to do here. Is we're not looking to be right or on the bleeding edge of Wheel of Time research, but we just want to have a fun conversation about it. The next episode of Blood and Ashes will cover chapters 48 to 51, which is following the craft through to the end of Bait for the Net. Now, our more astute listeners will realize that that is only 4 chapters. So it will be a shorter episode because that covers about 60 pages, just over 60 pages worth of content. In the last episode, we'll do chapters 52 to 56 as the finale, because while that is 5 chapters, that's also about 60 pages worth of content. Because as we know, like as we've experienced, the last couple chapters in these books are often short because a lot of stuff is happening really, really quickly, and you'll usually have a sort of summary chapter just at the end, which is only 1 or 2 pages. But they're not short enough to just jam them all into a regular episode. I've said this before. I think I said this last week, that we won't exhaust ourselves like we did at the end of The Great Hunt. So that'll be the breakdown. So the next episode will be only 4 chapters. It'll be a slightly shorter episode, one would think. Can't guarantee anything. So there's
No
2 episodes left for this book. And that's pretty crazy. 2 episodes left for The Dragon Reborn. And then it is, what's the next one? Shadow Rising.
Yep.
Ooh-wee. That is exciting.
And there are some shadows that rise. There's into the Aiel
man, do
waste.
they rise up?
Oh, man, yeah. There's a bunch of shit happens.
Yeah. Right, that's super exciting, but we'll have to wait for the next episode to continue on this journey. So from me, that's cheers to everyone.
Goodbye, y'all.
Nak, neh.